wrestling.
That's outrageous for
Yeah.
wrestling.
Absolutely. I see a lot of pro people doing wrestling for a living.
My boys wrestled for a while, and didn't stick with it.
My wife and I were up in Gaylord, and we were sitting in the hot tub, and this young couple.
Oh, don't.
Anyway, we get talking about where they're from, and he was from the Lansing area, and he was well built, you know, not overweight or anything like that, so got talking.
Like me.
He said, well, we take the more from Michigan, nobody knows where that's at. But if you say Dundee, especially after Cabela's came in, everybody knows where Dundee's at now. So I said, well, our kids go to Dundee to school. He says, yeah. He says, I wrestled, and I only lost 2 matches, and they were to Dundee.
That's great.
So he knew well that the wrestling program in Dundee, which, you know,
That's
that's fantastic.
fantastic. So, all right. Should we call a meeting to order? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's do the roll call. I am here. Vice Chairman Darling. Here. Secretary Straub.
I'm here.
Mr. Howard.
Here.
Mr. Turner. Here. Mr. Nichols.
Present.
And Mr. Zisk.
President,
You've all had a chance to look at the agenda. Not too much to it. It was brought to my attention, maybe it's apropos that we should be adding to new business an opportunity to talk about special. We talked about having workshops to work on, you know, the master plan. If we talked about doing that in June. And I said, well, that means the first of June, we could set that up, knowing where our schedules are, but if somebody wants to plan ahead, would we like to talk about that under new business? Sure. So let's add that to new business.
Meetings?
Yeah, special meetings.
Workshops.
Yeah,
There we go.
workshops for master plan.
Workshops. Okay.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll support it.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carried. The minutes from our last meeting of April 4. Everybody get a chance to look at them?
Move to approve the minutes of April 4th.
Support. Moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. All righty, and let's go on to first citizens time. Yes, sir.
Folks probably already know, I'm Sean Westergaard, I live on Oldham Road, currently right next to, an excavation that's being done at Bill Crozman's house. Both Saturday and Sunday afternoon, Ed was out working in violation of contractor's hours. I've got footage of him, video footage from Saturday afternoon at about 1:30, he was there till about 3:30. I'd say he was probably working there Sunday until about the same time. I also have pictures from a couple weeks ago of him, he had set up a pump and was dewatering Crozman's project into a creek that's at least half on my property and clearly staked with a surveyor's stake as such. He didn't ask for or receive permission to dewater into that creek that's partially owned by me. And I don't think he's got permission to de-water at Cosman excavation at all. In addition, the two ponds at the south end of my property were supposed to be done before I even took possession of the property in December of 2019. They were finally supposedly finished and put up for final approval early August of last year. Did not pass final township inspection because there's a bunch of concrete and asphalt laying all over the place instead of topsoil. And that has to be picked up, and the property has been seeded now, and it's gonna have to be mowed pretty soon. So if someone from his crew, both Rich and Alan have my phone number, if they haven't made arrangements to come out and finish that up, by Memorial Day, I'm gonna consider the project abandoned and hire a team to help me finish it. And I'm gonna bill the township for the time and my equipment rental. And then you can either take it out of Ed's bond or bill him directly. Because he's been depriving me of the use of that property for more than 2 years now, and I've had it. Thank you for your time.
One question, is it a private drain or a county drain behind your place?
It's the county drain. Well, I don't know actually, to be honest. It's an extension of the county drain.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how it's classified.
It's a little sandy.
This little sandy? Okay. Reference that in my notes.
Okay.
If you want something to read, if you're insomnia, read the drain code, it's about 850 pages.
I'm sure. Watching these meetings over again kind of does the same thing, but no offense.
None taken. All right, anybody else?
I'm Cumberfeld with Apex Clean Energy. Last month I mentioned that we were going to be hosting a public hearing at the beginning of May. We're pushing that back, but still notice everyone on the planning commission as well as all township residents, when we have a date selected, still aiming to host that at the Milan High School there. We're just trying to prepare all of our materials, and we were going to have some things prepared to the satisfaction of what we would desire to present to the community. We want to be able to have some visual renderings and things like that take some time to be able to create.
So you're looking at a June now, is that what you're saying?
That's what we're hoping to do. Again, once we're able to get a little bit more concrete footing, we'll be sharing that date and all that information with you guys, and then as well as providing mailers to both townships.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? All right. Well, I guess we'll move on to unfinished business. I believe Anita handed out a copy. We're saving ink by printing on less of the page and small print, that's what that's all about. I'm trying to save money.
That was so you could fit Sarah's notes on there.
Yes.
Is this on the site?
So,
It's not, but I do have.
where we wanna start, how do you wanna do this, folks? I'm looking for, we wanna just start and go through it, answer questions as we go. I assume you've had time to read it, read through it again.
Well, I know a couple of things that was mentioned at the township board, and one of them was the overlay district, when they sent it here and we decided to do the whole township.
We did something different, right?
Yeah, and I know a couple people had said something about that, as well as setbacks and PA 116 eligibility. So, I mean, there's three things right there. If you wanna start with those, Mr. Chairman, we can throw those out there, or we can go through this. It's only,
We have taxes for that also. Taxes for, just kind of talk about the taxes of it.
Well, I guess we need to make sure we cover all them things, because I'm of the, we just start out to kind of go through it, and when we get to them, deal with them.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're jumping around and we
Yeah.
might miss something.
Also, then to elevate, two things because of the public hearing, just what we'll think about when we get to it, is under J on page 5, that we add regarding, ground cover and buffer regarding pollinators, and then under P, new number 4 regarding recycling of panels, that, we prohibit that occurring in the township.
Okay.
I got left out words.
Jay, on page 5, Doug?
Yeah. Of the November version.
The November 2021.
Yeah.
So what is this?
And a number of the things that Sarah's got are really kind of.
Who is Sarah Mills? Where is she from?
Sarah Mills came in and spoke 2 years ago,
I know who she is, but where is she from?
University of Michigan. And then she worked with Michigan State University on the renewable energy program, and she did part of the presentation at the Monroe Community College back here about a month ago that everybody got invited to.
So she doesn't know anything about ordinances, zoning.
Oh, yeah,
anything,
yeah,
but
she
it's
does.
all
She
just
wrote the
so-
book. No, she wrote the book on renewable energy when it comes to wind energy. She actually,
Well, I understand
Yeah.
renewable energy, but is she a zoning
no,
person?
she's got experience with it. Did, you look at the?
I mean, we're concerned about zoning, not, I give a shit less on solar panels, but we're concerned about zoning.
Okay,
That's my thing.
Yeah.
You got Sarah Mills writing this up.
that was at Penny's request, because
I
Penny
understand
talked to
that.
Sarah at the community college.
All right.
And then also Penny sent out the, study that was done, and we also sent it out to that last October.
Well, does anybody have any questions from the first section? Let's just kind of go through them.
No, you might go page by page, and no issues with page 1.
Okay.
So what is she marked up on our current ordinance? Is that the stuff that's highlighted, or what is she,
Yeah, Penny emailed that out to everybody back here.
Right.
I didn't get this.
So, her.
Yeah, I wasn't on the email for some reason, I didn't get it, because we looked at that number.
Yeah, I was asking if you had, if you
Yeah.
seen it.
So this is the first time I've seen it. But I guess I'm just confused why we have, I guess so-called expert in solar, pro-solar person going through our ordinance. I mean, why wouldn't you have somebody that is good at ordinances? I mean, we're not trying to benefit a certain section here. This is gonna be for every resident that's in London Township. You should have a,
Sarah Mills grew up in London Township.
She also serves on the Ann Arbor Planning Commission.
Right.
I know who she is. I'm just,
Well,
I just feel, I mean, hell, you might as well have Tim St. Clair write it.
no,
I mean,
did-
it's the same thing.
back up, did you read the MSU U of M report
Yeah.
that came out back October?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
But MSU has also said a lot of different things besides what's being reported in these things too. I've read two sides of the story. And I just think, it's kind of pushing an agenda when somebody like this starts getting into our ordinance. That's my opinion.
Penny asked Sarah to review it because she grew up out here.
Right.
And she also had presented to us 2 years ago. I don't, Carol was there in charge.
She had a doctorate in urban and regional planning at the University of Michigan with a dissertation. I looked at the impact of wind projects on farming communities, and she also has a master's in engineering.
So she,
Does she have any zoning experience?
I thought
besides
she
being on a planning
did.
commission? I mean, we asked for,
I thought that's what she said.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Right.
sure she said that. That's what I'm trying to look.
Right.
she's on a planning commission. She has the most
No,
experience in that.
she got a PhD in it. I
Right.
thought
thought
Yeah.
that's what she just read.
Right,
Will you reread that, please?
yeah, let me go find it again.
She did part of her doctorate on renewable energy, because she was first involved with, when wind generation was being.
But, I mean, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but what the hell does renewable energy have to do with an ordinance?
Okay, well, then let's just ignore whatever Sarah said, and let's just move on, you know, we don't wanna deal with what she has, so it's up to you.
My only concern would be is if she, I mean, I'd like to ask her questions on how she came up with some of this, that's the only thing, that's the only thing that I wish that she was here to
That's my
answer some of the questions.
We could ask her back, I mean, she has been here before.
Yeah. I say, what's your questions, we can write them down. And then
Well,
just
yeah,
send
and I'm
us-
saying, since she edited it, you think that we kinda have her here so that we can ask her questions that she edited?
Well, she didn't edit,
Well, she didn't edit,
she
but
just
her
highlighted
recommendation
and made her
was-
comments.
She didn't add nothing.
Yeah, she didn't change anything
No, no,
that we
I
had.
understand that,
Yeah,
yeah, recommendation.
that's why I just wanna write down, what's the questions?
Yeah.
And as for what Leroy said, Sarah received her doctorate in urban and regional planning at the University of Michigan.
How about her and Kevin Martis attending meetings together? You can have one from one side, one from the other.
Well, we went to, a couple of us went to
Monroe Community
different
College.
sessions and different people with pros and cons. We had that, we had that document to review. And those people dealt with, well, the one dealt with, Summerfield, Summerfield Township.
Deerfield.
Hmm?
Deerfield?
No,
And Rega.
no,
No,
those,
Summerfield
it was
relates to
Summerfield that wrote the ordinance. So that person that helped, not necessarily write that ordinance, but reviewed it as part of this meeting, so you could take points out of there and use it in your ordinance. So that is a source that we have been, or have at our fingertips to use. I think, did I shoot that the other day?
I don't remember.
I mean, if,
But I could also send, you know,
I sent the Summerfield ordinance to everybody's email, I thought.
Yep, because to date, let's see, to date, we have reviewed Augustus Township, Milan Township, Adrian Township, Woodstock Township, the City of Erie, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire Model Ordinance, Planning Advisory Committee out of Service out of Chicago, Washington, Berlin Township, Summerfield Township, Whiteford Township, and the Whitetail Project. I've read all of those. And Riga. Riga's not on that list. That's entertaining.
and am I right in saying that Summerfield Township's only putting it on industrial?
So, I mean, if I'm reading this wrong, this is her comment from right off the bat. And it's saying that while there are some provisions increasing setbacks in stream to protect existing residential uses, the provisions generally aim to fully utilize agricultural lands, waiving lot coverage and reasonable but not large setbacks from roads, etc. Further provisions on pre and post soil testing, decommissioning standards, and limiting vegetation screening except around existing dwellings suggest the policy that aims to allow properties be farmed in the future. I mean, this is the whole, this is basically her saying that we shouldn't have large setbacks, we shouldn't have lot coverage.
She doesn't
I
like.
mean, and that's not protecting anybody in this resident. This is not a zoning person talking, this is a pro solar person talking. I mean, if we're gonna go that route, you might as well get Tim St. Clair in here to sit here and talk to us. Same thing.
And she did, turbines too, I don't know how much solar she's done, so that's different.
And I know that she's on a couple committees statewide regarding solar
She is.
as well, because
But
I
I
happened
don't
to
know.
bring her name up at a meeting back last November, and the guy was glowing about her expertise
I know.
and what she had been able to share.
it might be a good idea for all of us to maybe re-watch the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees, because she came and talked with the Board of Trustees also. I can send the links for the, when they were,
Watched the Milan one when she was there.
yeah. Yeah, but she came here to speak, and she spoke at, I believe, both the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees.
comments, I disagree with it all, so, I don't know. I guess my whole theory is that this ordinance needs to protect the residents, not the solar company, not the 3 farmers that are gonna achieve this. It needs to be for the whole township, and that's just the bottom line.
In the
I
future.
mean, it's terrible that people wanna come in here and do this to the whole township and put thousands of acres. I understand the farmers are gonna make money, I don't blame the farmers one bit. But we as a board and the board of this township got elected by all residents in this township, and
Well,
it's not
we were
just a
elected,
select
we
few.
were appointed.
I'm saying the
He
board,
was elected.
I'm saying the board, we're playing, well, board, whatever. I'm talking about the main board.
Well, as of right now, I know for a fact that around Milan Township, they have upped their ante to 300 feet setbacks behind houses, but still, that's not along the roads, railroads, or anything like that, and that's only a starting point.
I mean, it seems like every time everybody digs a little deeper into this, they find more issues with it. I just don't want it to be another London ag sitting over here tearing up our whole township. I mean, that's just my, and when it's done, we're gonna have a mess on our hands. Guarantee it.
And the future's gonna have the mess too to clean up.
And if
I
you
mean,
don't
this
like
is
a
not
good neighbor
you
act,
guys.
they're trying to offer you the money, wait till next month when they start offering you more money.
Let's try to work through this, okay? Everybody's got an idea, we're the ones responsible,
Yep.
okay? So let us try to come up with something.
Well, we've got something, why don't we just read through line by line, then if that's what's gonna take for everybody to get, understand what we've got.
Are you going through this, Doug?
I was reading through ours, because basically what Sarah's got.
I got the same thing,
Yeah, it's
bigger print.
What Sarah's got is just her comments that's on the list.
Right.
She didn't change anything on it.
Right, but that's our whole ordinance,
Yeah,
right?
that's our whole ordinance, because I went.
Of which one?
This is the old ordinance that we
This is
have
the,
out
this is the same thing, it's just blowed up
The one that she
without
sent,
a comment.
that Penny sent to, Sarah was the one that was amended in November. It wasn't the final amendment, or the final version, but it was, but it showed what the last changes that we did to it.
Oh, this isn't the, final version?
Yeah, no, that is the final version, but I mean, the one that she had also included in that email, if you printed it off, it had, read out, the strikeout from what we had changed at the November, or not November,
Right.
August.
But this is
Yes,
what we sent to the board.
yes.
That's fine, I figured everybody had a copy, I
Right.
pulled mine of my file from last time we did this. You know,
And
fire
the only
system,
difference
copies to be
between,
made when they
the
go
only
in
thing
the
that's
first
added to
3 or 4
this is
times.
Sarah's comments on the
Yes,
side.
nothing's been changed.
Everything's the same.
That's what I went
This is
through.
our ordinance with the comments.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree, I'm getting of the age that it is when they create smaller print, it is a little more difficult.
You admitted that out loud.
Right.
So, section one.
You may wanna read it out loud, because somebody at home's gonna complain that they can't hear it, or they don't know what it is.
Well, we can do that. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, you can trade off.
I can get started.
Reading.
Alright.
You wanna wait for Anita to come back?
Oh,
Yeah, she'd like a copy for you.
I don't know where she went.
So I make copies of this without the comments, so the letters are 25% bigger, 20% bigger. The generic few sit up front, I mean, obviously you didn't need it, Daryl.
I can read that.
From over here?
I can read that, not from over here, but I can read that from where I got it in my hands.
No, I can read it too, but I was looking at the other one, cause I figured if I was gonna write, I was gonna write on the bigger one. So. I guess, before we get started, I mean, we worked hard on this, and I understand there's concerns. I would honestly wish that there wouldn't be any in my part of the world. And where they're talking about tying into the lines for Milan and London Township is, well, closer to Daryl's house and Jimmy's house in mine, but pretty close. as I read these ordinances, we've had several places and people say, well, this one here, they had problems, and over here, they had decommissioning, and this one, there's no screening, you can see it, it's terrible. You realize there's a lot of counties in Michigan, 83, right? I don't know how many of them have townships with no zoning at all. Okay, so what we're trying to do is create an ordinance so that it's,
How are these other
acceptable.
townships opting out of this, like Washtenaw
there's no way
County?
to opt out of it
Yes,
because
there is,
the
Washtenaw
state
County
is
just
in.
told them to get out, they're not even allowing solar in Washtenaw County. That was just the other day.
Can we get a copy of that?
Yeah, I
It
have
was in the Ann Arbor News.
Can you print that off for us?
not heard that one,
No, I haven't heard that either.
cause I know they're already got a project over in Manchester.
Yes.
Well, that
Maybe
whitetail
Washington
thing
County.
is
Might be
right there in
outside of
Washtenaw
And
County.
yeah, that's underway
Well,
too.
unless they're not doing any
No,
more.
not the one in Manchester.
The one in Manchester's right near, Fusiliers.
It was in the Ann Arbor,
There's two
it
separate
was in
buildings
them
on
live.
that farm.
Is it on Sharon Hollow?
Cause I
Yeah,
get all the.
or no, it's over,
Because Sharon Hollow and Harrison, or something like that road? Because they're saying that they're very against it.
but against is one thing, but it's moving ahead is a different thing.
It's not moving ahead.
Oh, cause that's where I got a comment from one of the neighbors over there.
Yeah. So,
I understand if we have to create an ordinance, fine.
I think we need to create something
Yeah.
because
We do.
the state could allow it to happen anyways, and then we wouldn't have any guidelines telling them what they need to do
No, I
for
agree.
setbacks or greenery or
Cause what we,
any of this stuff,
cause
you
what
know.
we've worked on
Bonds for
is,
decommissioning, we've worked hard on
there's
this.
been a lot of thought that's
And I
gone
would
there,
think
and
we're,
Yeah, but
There's
I
other
don't
townships
even
that are
think
looking
it's
at
even far good enough. But,
And
well, and we can tweak
I
it.
mean, we did put a lot of time in it, but it's not time lost, we did get somewhere, and I think it's better to make it right than to just say, oh, we worked a long
All
time, we
right.
should disapprove it.
So then we've had months that nothing's been done. Why didn't we all sit down
and read it.
and read it and make notes and come prepared? Because
I
we
got
knew
all
this is
types
what
of
we were
notes,
gonna
you want me to start reading them?
Yeah,
I got all types
I
of
guess
shit,
so.
but you wanna go in order, that's what we're
Well,
doing.
that's
so,
what
I
we
mean,
talked about, so we wouldn't forget
well,
something.
that's what we're doing.
So, well,
I
we
got all
get
types
held
of
up.
info.
Jimmy, did you ask about those notes right there on the side? So, the only reason those notes are on the side is, I know that the board sent this to Sarah just to have another set of eyes on it. And it is not, these notes are not intended to make changes to this.
No, I understand.
So,
This is just her
it's just for
recommendation.
your information, it's not
It's
intended
Some of
to,
it's actually complimentary for what we've done,
right.
cause she has looked at hundreds of cases.
Okay. So we wanna just go and read it? We'll start with section 1, amendment to zoning ordinance, article 3, section 3.02. Zoning ordinance, article 3 is amended to add large solar energy system to the land use table as a special use in Ag 1 and Ag 2 under the section titled Other Uses. The zoning ordinance, Article 3, is further amended to add electric substations, electric lines, and interconnection, transmission, and distribution lines that are accessory to the special use of the large solar energy system. To the land use table as an accessory use in all zoning districts under the section titled Other Uses.
So, are we gonna do a different ordinance for substations compared to this?
I thought we
think they
felt
should be
that
separate.
It should be all together, 'cause that should be all together as part of that.
Right,
Well,
you gotta have one
substations
and
come a
the
whole
other.
nother animal, I mean, you got, so what are we, keeping the same setback, everything's gonna be the same on it for substations, along with, you got, how many volts are in a substation roughly? Can you tell me?
Depends on the
I mean,
size.
is it fenced in, is it?
Yeah,
It's
it's
all
all fenced.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's all fenced.
You ever drove down the road?
No, and there's a lot of different requirements on that, I mean, they got drive to it, they got all, I mean, we're not,
The substation's part of the project, and it'll be fenced in and built accordingly, and then there's also the Michigan Utilities Commission, they've also got guidelines and requirements as well. And there's a ton of oversight on that stuff.
so is that part of the decommissioning if this all goes dead, or, I'm just throwing it out there because
It's
I personally heard from a bunch of people it should be separate. It should have a separate ordinance for each one. But that's just, I don't know. Be
There's
more
no-
depth into it.
There's no reason for one without the other, so why wouldn't you just do it all together?
Well, I could understand where he's coming from, because if you only have a 50-foot setback, for instance, on solar, and then if a substation, or a 6-foot setback next to a residential home.
Well, for one, they're putting a
I'm not saying it
substation in
wouldn't,
London
I'm not-
Township, and that's all we're getting right now, and some transmission lines, so that's a whole lot different than having a, 1,000-acre solar field that Milan's getting, or whatever it is. We're getting a substation, so we have the same, you know what I mean? It does, I don't know.
Our setbacks can be totally different than mine and Vinnie.
No, I understand,
Yeah, he's saying
but
setbacks.
what we're dealing with right off the bat is a substation and transmission lines in London Township. So,
And some solar on the corner of the wells and those things.
yeah. So that, therefore, I don't know, I personally think it should be separate.
Well, why don't we put that as a note, so the rest we do it?
I don't know.
I think it's a good point.
Because maybe they'll build a substation later on the other side of London Township and then connect the two, I don't know, It just seems like. Did they put vegetation around the substations, trees, all that stuff to cover the,
Depends
I've
on
never
the lo-
seen it.
Just depends on the location of them. Some
Well, that's
substations
what I
are
mean.
screened,
That's
that's
what-
something we would be,
that's what we do.
consider doing, depending on the location of residents around it.
Right, because according to our ordinance, if you did that and that was the only thing in the field, you have to have screening, you have to have everything, I just think it should be a different ordinance.
Well, then that way you don't see the substation.
Well,
How
Correct,
tall are
but-
most substations?
most substations.
They have to connect to those high
You know what I
capacity
mean?
transmission lines. I think in your guys' current draft ordinance, you put the maximum height about 100 feet for, the various towers and different things like that. The main components are quite a bit lower, but they are a bit taller than the solar panels and solar farm
What
themselves.
kind of noise comes out of those substations?
Substations.
There is some noise, I mean, it is, a substation, that's why we locate them back in fields and away from residential dwellings.
No,
I'd have to look out to get you an exact number, I'm happy to get you one though. Yeah, I'm happy to get you one.
because it really, if they go off of the ordinance, and that's a noisy, as it sits in this ordinance now, they're 100-foot setbacks.
Say, Kevin
Put a
Martin has
substation
a,
100 foot from somebody's house, I mean, obviously you wouldn't, but I'm just saying that it's a possibility if we don't fix it.
Kevin Martin has a, noise ordinance or a noise impact. If you'd like to look that over, I have that for you, can I see it?
Our current one, we've got, I think it's at 65.
Yeah, that's way too
decibels.
loud.
I mean, it is.
And that's very loud. Some of our board members over there have been down to Monroe and listened to the one they had down there, and he was 300 feet away from it, and you could hear it plain as day on his phone. That's something to think about. I mean, very loud.
All right. Who wants to read?
I got a question on section 1.
Okay.
So it says in there, special use in Ag 1, Ag 2,
Yep.
is that where a, solar overlay would go? There's gonna be an overlay in here, I'm gonna tell you. There absolutely is. The board has already said more than one time, there's gonna be an overlay. And I went back through Kabisky's notes, and, it seems that, there may be a question about that overlay district that was drawn up, was in a floodplain. And, I don't think that you can put anything in a floodplain. So, however you guys wanna do that overlay district, I know there's gonna be one. I've already heard it. They sent it down here for an overlay district. We questioned that, sent it back, and here we are again. So, I'm just telling you,
I mean, and by rights, it's our job to do what the board asks to, so if they want to overlay district, we'll do them overlay district.
they're pretty set on that overlay district, so that's what I'm telling you. Wherever you wanna put it, it doesn't matter, but when I see Ag 1, Ag 2, it would seem like an overlay district would probably be somewhere. I'm just passing along what the board has already said.
To add to that, I think PA 116, if, you know, if you're gonna try to accept it from PA 116, it would be under that same section also, but. we chose to-
Are we gonna put that overlay district in there? I'm
Is
just
that where it
asking.
would go? If it did decide to go in there? That's where it would be.
I'm just asking.
I guess I thought this was just kind of the
Yeah, it would be-
overview of it, and then it would be down when we get into the meeting.
If you got your old ordinances, if you got your files, pull it out and you can actually read it, it's in section 1.
Is
What
it?
that first language was. You got yours?
No, I'm not the whole, that's why I was
I'm
asking.
sure I can pull it out.
Yeah.
It goes back to the, August 11th, 21.
You have a copy of it, Doug?
Yeah, I got the, August 11th one. But then we did do some of the amending to that aside from the overlay.
That's what he said. I'm not finding anything from August the 20th. I've got a draft from July of 20.
That was the cover, that was the cover. There it was.
Yeah, if you could make that, that would be helpful, because I do not have that either.
He said 2020, right? So we said-
No, he said 21. I said I have one from 20, but I don't have it.
20 was when we started these things, and 21 was when we finished it up, and then,
Did we do that based on 21?
pardon me?
Did they?
Yeah, we've done this thing 3 times
No,
now.
I understand that, but different than this, what you had in the original one, from 2020 to 2021 was different.
Yeah, cause we beefed
That's the
up,
second
yeah,
one.
we beefed up
No, I remember
that
that.
version, the 21, or the 20 version that was given to us was the basic template, which basically mirrored exactly what Augusta had and Milan Township. They both had virtually the same thing, the only difference between the 2 townships was the height, requirements. That was the only thing basically between those 2 townships ordinances from when we read through them and made notes.
But didn't-
Ours has got a lot more requirements, a lot more caveats, a lot more for the decommission, like the soil testing, when we brought up about the soil testing, to return it back to that content. We got folks in other parts of the state going, wow, we never thought about that.
But Milan and Augusta, they both amended their ordinance, correct, since then?
I don't believe they have.
I know
They
mine
haven't
is
approved
amended.
it.
Yes, we're in the process.
Okay, you're in the process of going through it again then. All right, well, see, they've already, they approved theirs back in 20.
That was during the pandemic, nobody
Yeah.
was around.
2 days.
Okay,
Crazy.
but anyway, that's what they had put in the books, and so that's what.
You
we
voted
have.
them in.
I know.
But
Believe me,
You're right.
you're absolutely right.
You're right.
Won't happen
I
again.
guess we're gonna have to vote them out.
That's what's gonna happen. You got one guy on the board that's got over 500 acres in on it, that ain't right.
That's not this board and
I
that's not
understand
this
that, I understand
township,
that, I agree,
you know?
I agree.
We're trying to get things correct.
Have you ever thought of a power agreement where it's gonna be hooking up to DTE?
Well, my understanding is they build these solar farms and then they sell them to DTE.
But maybe you could have them, are you sure that DTE is going to buy them?
No, that's the problem.
That's something that would be good in the ordinance too, something that would be,
Most of this because of the requirements that are coming out of Washington and what's coming out of Lansing for requirements for what percentage of generation has to be renewable. That's pushing them one way. Also because of the net metering charges, how that's priced out. It's like if you had a solar panel on your roof and you only use X amount of kilowatts a day, you have extra kilowatts to put back into the grid if they allow you. instead of like they charge you, say, 12, 13 cents a kilowatt, you're only gonna get paid 2 or 3 cents a kilowatt. That's part of that net metering discussion. That was debated, oh God, about 5, 6 years ago in Lansing. So there's, these folks that are talking about solar, I'm sure they're not going into these things blind, that they've already talked to consumers, they've talked to DTE, they've already talked to the agreements, because they're looking at the folks, some of them DTE's doing them directly, some of them they're going by third party, like Apex is doing. But the bottom line, they know that they're under requirements and restrictions that they have to, and then there's also the tax, different things that they got for tax abatements, tax breaks on their income tax portion of that. And then you've got the public utility, and you've got the Public Utilities Commission that has oversight in setting what the electric rates are. So you got tons of layers of regulations on this thing.
Correct.
You got a guy
So,
over on Wells Road that's got 2 in his yard, and he was told he could get tax breaks for 30 years, and they backed him down to 10.
Tax breaks from the township or on his income,
On his income for the solar.
because they changed
Well,
the tax code.
So what do you
So he
think
probably didn't think he got
taxes?
30 years worth, he was only getting 10.
That was one of my concerns. Talking about taxes.
They pay personal property tax.
Correct.
Yeah,
Right now they do.
yeah, they do.
But in the future, who knows?
They'll still be paying something, maybe a different structure.
What
Well, they're trying
government
to be
gives,
exempt.
government pays for it.
Well, if you go back to, Leroy and I remember, you go back to say
The way
1990,
it is.
and they were trying to get computers in every school, and, you know, we only had a handful of computers at Milan. You went to Jefferson, they had a computer in every room for every kid. Why? Because of the way, before the proposal A went in for funding the school districts, because of the Detroit Edison nuclear plant down there, Fermi too, they had like $9,000, $9,800 per pupil, when the rest of the county was, this school districts were running like $3,200 a district. And that's where part of that changes with the proposal A, funding for John Engler kind of set Debbie Stabben all up, and she carried the water and didn't realize it, and it evened out for where the taxation was for the rest of the state for funding the schools districts.
So I guess for taxes, let's say somebody in P 116, let's say, decides they wanna do a solar farm. Now, it removes it from P 116, or puts it on hold. And the township gets paid $27 an acre for taxes. You can do that. $27 an acre for taxes, roughly, property taxes, for farmland. Okay? So now, by the solar arrays on this property, let's say, let's just do an easy 100 acres.
It doesn't change, man. It's gonna get to 27.
Okay, so the township is guaranteed $27 an acre. That's all we are guaranteed.
No, you
No,
got personal property.
no,
You
stop.
are-
Stop,
That
listen,
township is only.
that personal property taxes can change. The only thing we have control of is property taxes. Personal property taxes is regulated through the state, which therefore they can change it down to 10, they can exempt it, they can do, the only guarantee we have as a township is $27 an acre. Now, my thing is let's say you take 5 acres somewhere, that's not farmland, and a guy's paying $1,500 a year in taxes, straight land. He can't do anything to make money on his land. It's zone A two, ag one. Now, he's paying $1,500 a year in taxes for 5 acres, $250 an acre, or whatever it is. There's a big difference there.
What's its zone, and
A
what's its
two.
purpose? Is it a developmental? Have they gone to the Township Board of Appeals?
No, it can't be developed, this farmland can't be developed.
So how is it they paying $1,500 taxes on 5 acres?
That's just what it is, if it's not farmland, you don't get a break.
Who is this?
Well,
I think it's like around 1,000, 500 winter and 500 summer for 5 acres.
But is there a
Vacant
house on it?
land.
No house.
Vacant
I
land.
looked up vacant land, there was some on Townsend Road, it was 10 acres, they were paying $1,200 a year.
Is there a,
That was a tax,
Who's
is
their
there a
name?
formula for that?
no, it's on real.com, it shows right on there what they pay for taxes.
You're the assistant assessor,
$1,200.
right?
I believe
No.
Hey, hey, hey.
figure this out. I'll have to look it up.
So I just asked Mike, you know, since he is the assistant assessor, if there's a formula for that,
Yeah,
And I'm sure there is a formula for that.
that does not make any sense at all. And then whoever was the property owner wasn't right, or the other flip is the property owner came in and paid a stupid amount of money for it, because the property taxes are based off the sale price. And then our taxes go up because we're taxed on hypothetical capital gains, and that happens every
So
year.
what does farmland go up?
Farmland, we go up usually about 5% a year, 3 to 5%. Actually, we will be capped at the 5% a year for the next 15 years, courtesy of a couple sales that took place by investor groups out of Chicago area that bought a lot of farmland in London Township, Milan Township, Dundee Township, with what they paid over what the actual ag values were at the time. I can tell you my out-of-pocket cash cost for farmland is going to double out of pocket in the next 14 and a half years.
But what I'm getting at is, if this
Can you
solar
guys
array comes on
talk
here,
into the microphones a little bit more?
if this solar array comes on here and they're making $1,000 an acre lease, and they're only paying $27 an acre in taxes, and everybody else that owns land in London Township, besides somebody that has a solar array or in PA 116, is paying way more taxes than they are, how is the township gonna benefit from this?
Then make it so PA 116 is ineligible
That's
to
what
be part of the solar array then. How's that?
Why is it affecting them?
I don't think you can get away with that, the governor said.
No, the governor said it is allowed on there, doesn't mean it has to be. There is tons of townships that took it absolutely out of the category. That's not even, it's not, you don't have to.
Because it won't be part of the solar district then.
So really, London Township's guaranteed $27 an acre for the next 30 years of this solar array, and not guaranteed, I mean, they possibly could get property taxes, but not guaranteed it, to have all the solar panels throughout all London Township.
What I hope you understand is that it doesn't matter if farm ground, if the bare ground tax is 27, another parcel's gonna be 35, but not all.
It's because of what they
Okay,
paid for.
depending on what was paid for.
Right.
But you realize the township gets that $35 or $27, regardless of whether it's in PA 116 or not.
Now, we can get down
And
into
the
the
township
weeds.
doesn't give any of that back.
All right, listen, we can
No,
get down
okay.
in the weeds on this tax stuff and waste all night, and it's nothing that we have jurisdiction, no, excuse me, let me finish, please. What do you told me what you know about PA 116. That's all the case law on PA 116. I helped rewrite the amendment that took place back in '95 on this thing, even have a cute note from the Attorney General on it, I think, because it was part of the.
I'm just saying, what kind of money London
No,
Township?
listen, let me finish, so you understand. The comments that were made at the public hearing on the P 116, that the people are not paying their share, they are paying their share. All the money that is paid, like Leroy pays property taxes, that all goes to the township, it goes to the roads, it goes to the fire department. What money a landowner gets back comes from the state, and it's based off their income tax, because if the property tax exceeds 3.5% of their household income, they then get a reimbursement. Now, the farmers who go into the solar program, because that they're in that solar program, and if they're making money out of that, they will receive no benefit from P 116 as the circuit breaker
But
for
are
our
they still
property.
classified in PA 116?
Yes, they are. It's a pause. The state puts it as a pause. Now, listen, you talk about putting it in, because this discussion I had, I was with two former directors of the Department of Ag and the director back here about 3 weeks ago, and we got to talking about this very situation, because I really like a township. And they kind of laughed, and they go, why in the world would they do that? They're setting themselves up for a lawsuit, which is true. Because one aspect, that means the landowner is going to go and pay the 7 years back tax. He's gonna pay it off. And in comparison for what a solar's paying, it's peanuts, it's nothing. So it comes out, it's a moot point to even put it in there. You're making them go through a process. So it's a moot point, no, listen, hear me out. It's a moot process on it, because what you've done is that you've lost it from being in P 116, so that if it ever did come out, they may say, hey, you know what, we're gonna do a subdivision, we're gonna do a planned unit development, which they can do on that land, whereas if it's in P 116, you've got the intent of going back in there. So
Well,
On the
first
same,
off,
but putting in that in there is a waste of time and waste of paper.
we keep throwing out there the subdivision and all this, let's face it, we're not gonna get a subdivision anywhere in this farmland with the water we got,
No.
let's face it.
If
So
we-
that's out of the
but-
question.
But if water
Now,
goes through, it
okay,
will.
who's paying for the water? That's why I'm feeling if they take it out of PA 116, it's not exempt, we can tax them as light commercial, which therefore they will be assessed for everything that goes in front of their house, which therefore we redo the whole water situation and go per foot through road frontage and do water, and then every resident in this township will pay
It
$5,000
won't
to
be-
$6,000.
It won't be by per foot, it'll be per parcel.
No,
It will be by per.
I've already
parcel.
talked to manager, no, it's wrong,
No.
absolutely,
It's per parcel.
no.
It's-
It can be
it's
by
right
road
there.
frontage, it does it all the time, they run gas that way.
It's per parcel.
Okay, we'll see.
Cause that was part of the clarification.
But then we're getting light commercial taxes on that property, which the
Right.
township therefore is
Well,
actually gonna
okay.
make some money.
The thing is, to me, is it's not hurting the farmer. If you take it out in PA 116 and put it in light commercial, you're not gonna pay that back in 7 years or 20 years, whatever years it's gonna be.
Well,
So they're
someone
gonna pay
else,
it back.
yeah.
So it's not hurting
Yeah.
you. You're still gonna get the
No,
same
it's-
amount of money. The only difference is we are guaranteeing the residents of this township that they are gonna get a decent amount of money back on taxes. They're not gonna get money back, but it's gonna go to the township. They're gonna be paying because they're making money, just like anybody else. You go put a business out there on 100 acres, and if they're creating an income, they have to pay commercial tax on it. You guys are taxing Ed Gerard on commercial property, but you're not gonna tax them on commercial property? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. And they're gonna make way more money than Ed Gerard is on commercial property.
We need to go back to discussing the ordinance. That's what we need to do. We can debate taxes all night.
Well, this is a
No,
part of it.
this is
This is
talking
on
about PA
number one.
116.
This is in the section that we're talking about right now.
Okay, I'll read you.
This
right
would be
here.
under PA 116.
If you read
And
the
overlay
Department of Agriculture policy allowing commercial solar development on PA 116 ground, or land, excuse me, MDR overall goal is positively addressing and competing good land use issues. To achieve this, below the conditions under which MDR may allow solar panels to operate on land, enroll in farmland development rights program. There are two major goals in this approach. Allow solar energy facilities to be placed on land enrolled in farmland development rights program. And then second, to preserve agricultural land for future use as intended as the Farmland Open Space Preservation Act, MC 324.36101. And MDR may permit solar development on lands enrolled in farmland development program. That's right off the Michigan Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, it says they're
And then-
allowed.
Yeah,
They're
yes.
not saying you have to do it.
No.
But here's the thing,
Two totally different things.
I could pull up something from the state and say, look, you can put in this many marijuana places in London Township.
But we opted out of that.
We did opt out
It was
of that,
residents of
so
this township
I
that wanted
mean,
to do that.
that,
And we opted out of it because it's landowners' rights.
there's a lot of stuff that
We
the
didn't do
state
that.
comes down and allows, but it's still up to the township to govern.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's what the ordinance is for.
So it's Luke, you want to take that?
And I understand where it says that it's gonna, that it is potentially gonna go back to agricultural land. But the way that I assume almost anything that we pass up here, we have to assume, like if they do a dragway, that thing's gonna always be a dragway. Yeah, they might change it, put apartment complex in or whatever, but whenever we pass it, we're assuming from this day forward, it's always gonna be a dragway. So when we pass this, and we're saying solar, we're allowing solar on PA 116, that's telling me we're basically planning on doing this forever. Yeah, they could go back, we could say, we could say whatever, but to me, you might as well just say forever in there.
How much,
So,
like, I got a question.
that's the way I look at
What was
it.
your-
It's never going to go back
Got
in
it.
that direction.
What is like a cost for, let's say, 1,000 acres, like total cost, just off the air?
A company like ours, our total investment,
Yes.
at the end of the day, after construction, after we did all of the work development, it would be in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Okay, so hundreds of millions of dollars.
When you took in the consideration of all the equipment, all the labor, everything like that. And I will mention, we will have an economic impact report detailing, much to your question, taxes, landowners, everything, how it will impact the community. We're gonna be having that provided to you guys.
So I'm personally, I'm not a business company like you guys, but if I'm investing hundreds of millions of dollars into some farmland, 1,000-acre farmland, I would almost bet the way this world's going with solar, that solar farm isn't going anywhere. It's never going back to farmland, ever. You've got hundreds of millions of dollars sitting there, and you think they're gonna decommission that and just pick it up and let's move on?
If I may,
Why would
our
you?
project is designed so that it could return back to farmland. Personally, one of the
understand
reasons
that.
I do this is my family owns a small farm just right here in southeast Michigan, and this allows essentially to skip a generation. There's no farmers currently in my generation, in my family, since my uncle passed away. It allows us to keep, or allows individuals to keep the farm in the family, allows the farmland to continue to be productive, and again, one of the reasons I do this is I came from Livingston County, which
Yeah,
I
but
grew
I
up
mean,
in
what I'm
live.
saying is,
And
though,
the whole intention, that's why we sign easements and don't purchase the land for the most part. We're not the group that came out of Chicago. Our whole intention is to allow the farmers to go back to farming their land. That's
yeah,
how the
but I
project
just
is
don't, I
designed.
don't feel that's ever gonna happen when you're spending the hundreds of millions of dollars. You're just gonna either lease that for another 30 years. I mean, you're not gonna just wipe your hands clean of that. There's no way. There's no way possible you would just throw hundreds of millions of dollars down the drain after you have established a solar farm, got the ordinance to where it has to be, and it's a productive solar farm, and the only other option you would be is sell it to DG. That, or you're gonna keep going.
I mean, you're right, typically in Michigan, with how the power market is currently placed, with the Michigan Public Service Commission, with the two utilities having a monopoly over our power guarantee, DTE or consumers would more than likely be the off-taker with our current regulatory system at the state level.
Why does,
Apex overall, throughout the rest of the nation, we do own and operate, we do produce power and sell that power. But here in Michigan, just with how it's set up, that's typically what you would see.
so if DTE does not feel that your guys' solar farm is productive, which, listening to some DTE people talk, that happens quite often, you're basically belly up, bankrupt, done, because it's not to where you wanna be, and then what happens to everything?
Well, that's why you guys have a decommissioning plan in your guys' ordinance to be able to take care of something like that. I will say, while you guys may only see myself and a couple of others from Apex, we are a team of over 350 professionals who do our due diligence to make sure that our company is making solid investments in local communities and in the nation overall.
Well, yeah, I guess we haven't got very far by going line to line, have we?
Well, I mean, I wrote some, if we're doing the overlay, PA 116 exempt or not, the substation separate ordinance, that's on one, I don't know. I mean, we can talk about it all later, get some highlights.
Doug, was you gonna get some info on PA 116 that you could like pass out to the planning commission for, our workshops, future workshops? Cause I think it's probably gonna be more than one future workshop on this.
Slightly.
Well, the township board has put on a moratorium,
For 6 months.
No, until June.
but that ends when?
June,
End of
Okay,
June.
yeah.
so
First
they're
of July,
assuming that we're gonna have an ordinance in place soon,
Well, they'll extend it if we don't.
understand? But I don't know how many times they'll be able to extend it, that's my point.
At least once.
Well,
I just think we should do it right, I mean, you know, I don't know.
I do too, but we gotta get off the first page before we can do it right, so.
Lead the way, Leroy, if you can get us off the first page on section one. See, it was interesting, you know, when she brought this back, that it mentioned an overlay district right in section one on this copy from.
Yeah,
Did she give you
That's the
another?
one I just gave everybody, that you made copies of for everybody.
So, I mean,
You'll see,
Yeah, I got you. What
yeah, let's see, yeah, okay, she took that out, but it
Well, I just wanna know, so
Yeah.
it's not.
Always state everything you see.
What, there was something missing on one of them?
What?
This was the older one that we went off of,
Oh,
she
yeah,
just
yeah.
gave,
You
it was
give
8/11/21.
Yeah, she got.
Then
This is the
you
newer
give us
one.
some that were stapled together and neat, and what was that?
That was,
Blown up version of that.
yeah, correct. It didn't have the comments in it.
Well, that
So it was the November 2021.
Same as that one over there, it's just a bigger version.
Well, that's what this was, she did that a few minutes ago.
Oh, you were saying two.
No, that was, what Doug had from August of
One the language
2021.
for the solar overlay, which was in section 1, and I
You
had.
know, that's what I mean, so we had her make
Right, I didn't realize that
copies.
was underneath this piece.
So this here is the same as my version that says November of 2021,
Okay.
but it is blown up, it's bigger, yeah.
This one is good.
Yeah, there's different.
Yeah, there's a difference between the two, for sure. What's
Where's the
date on
difference?
What's the date of this one that just got
Well,
passed out?
That's why when the township attorney calls it.
Hey, not on this next page, it's different, but, I haven't seen anything. That's why I say you gotta work from one document, now we got 3 documents and
I'm
which
not
one
gonna
you
look
working
at these
from?
two.
So which document are we looking
I'm
at?
looking at the one we got today. the
That's
one
right,
here.
that
Look at the one
document right there.
that started out today, and then if you wanna go back to change to section 1, then you've got the template that's off that copy that has the, August 11th date on it.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Per foot, well, that's the cost, yeah, they calculate the cost, but the assessment goes per parcel.
Well, this is the whole thing.
So let's get off.
Can we move this on,
Yes.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman?
Yep.
I guess so,
I gotta get home before midnight.
right. So what are we doing with section 1 then? You guys wanna add it, you know, the verbiage back to have an overlay district, exempt PA 116,
Can we put just notes to the side and talk about
That's
it all
fine.
after we get through it,
that's fine.
Yeah,
Is
put
that
the
cool?
notes up here, too.
so we can move on?
So, you want me to read section 2, or somebody else gonna read?
I can read section 2.
You read.
I'll read it. I'll read till you tell me to stop.
Okay.
Section 2, amendment to zoning ordinance, Article 18, Section 18.02, zoning ordinance. Article 18, Section 18.02 is amended to add definitions for the following terms and shall read as follows. Large solar energy system, a utility scale solar energy system in which the principal use of the land is to generate electric energy or other energy by converting sunlight, whether by photovoltaic or, what is it?
Voltaic.
Doing a
Voltaic
fine guy.
devices or other conversion technology for the sale, delivery, or consumption of the general energy or generated energy with a capacity greater than 1 megawatt. Photovoltaic device, a system of components that generates electric energy from incident sunlight by means of the photovoltaic effect, whether or not the device is able to store the electric energy produced for later use. Solar array, any number of voltaic devices connected to provide a single output of electric energy or other energy.
Straightforward, good job.
Is there anything you wanna touch on in that section? That sounds like it's just definitions.
Yeah,
Definition,
Always
that's pretty
is.
correct.
alright.
Section 3, amendment to zoning ordinance, Article 11, Section 11.04, zoning ordinance, Article 11 is amended to add sections 11.04 entitled Large Solar Energy Systems, providing as follows. Section 11.04, large solar energy systems. A, purpose and intent. The purpose and intent of this section is to establish standards for the what is that?
Siting.
Siting, installation, operation, repair, decommissioning, and removal of large solar energy systems. 1. Large solar energy systems are allowed in all zoned Ag 1 prime, conservation, Ag 2 reserve, industrial research. B. Site plan drawing and supporting materials. All applications for a large solar energy systems use must be accompanied by detailed site plans drawn to scale and dimension and certified by the registered engineer licensed in the state of Michigan, displaying the following information. 1. All requirements for a site plan contained in Article 12 of the London Township zoning ordinance. 2. Copy of valid certified survey by a licensed surveyor in the state of Michigan. 3. All lot lines and dimensions, including a legal description of each lot on which the large solar energy system is proposed to be located along the adjacent owners' names and addresses outside of the large solar energy system. 4. Names of owners of each lot or parcel within London Township that is proposed to be within the large solar energy system. 5. Vicinity map showing the location of all surrounding land uses. 6. Location and height of all existing and proposed solar arrays, buildings, structures, electrical tie lines, and transmission lines, security fencing, and all above ground structures and utilities associated within a large solar energy system. NAVD 88 datum. 7. Horizontal and vertical elevation to scale drawings with dimensions that show the location of the proposed solar array, building structures, electrical tie lines, and transmission lines, security fencing, and all above ground structures and utilities on which the large solar energy system is proposed to be located. 8. Location of all existing and proposed overhead and underground electrical transmission or distribution lines within the large solar energy system and within 100 feet of all exterior lot lines on parcels which the large solar energy system is proposed to be located. 9. Proposed dimensions from the solar arrays to all existing and proposed structures on which the large solar energy system is proposed to be located. 10. Land elevations for the solar arrays, locations, and relationship to the land elevations of all existing and proposed structures within the large solar energy system at a minimum of 2-foot contours. 11. Dimensions, composition, and maintenance schedule of access driveways within and to the large solar energy system shall be provided. All access drives and entrances shall be subject to the Monroe County Road Commission approval and shall be planned so as to minimize the use of lands for that purpose. 12. Plan security measures to prevent unauthorized trespass and access during the construction, operation, removal, maintenance, or repair of the large solar energy system. 13. A written description of the maintenance program to be used for the solar array and other components of the large solar energy system, including decommissioning and removal. The description shall include maintenance schedules, types of maintenance to be performed, and decommissioning and removal procedures and schedules if the large solar energy system is decommissioned. 14. a written description of the operational life of the solar arrays proposed and other components of the large solar energy system. 15, planned lightning protection measures. 16, photometric plan is required. 17, additional details and information as required by the special use requirements of London Township zoning ordinance or as required by the Planning Commission. C, application escrow account. An escrow account shall be deposited with the township by the applicant when the applicant applies for a special use for a large solar energy system. The monetary amount deposited by the applicant in escrow with the township shall be the amount of $15,000 to cover all reasonable costs and expenses associated with the special use application, review and approval process, which costs shall include, but are not limited to, reasonable fees of the township attorney, township planner, and township engineer, as well as costs for any reports or studies that are reasonably related to the zoning review process for the application. Such escrow amount shall be in addition to any filing or application fees established by resolution. At any point during the special use application review process, the township may require that the applicant place additional funds into escrow with the township if the existing escrow amount deposited by the applicant is deemed insufficient by the township. If the escrow account needs replenishing and the applicant refuses to do so within 30 days, the special use application process shall cease unless and until the applicant makes the required additional escrow deposit. Any other ordinances adopted by the township must also be complied with by the applicant. The township shall provide a summary of all account activity to the applicant within a timely manner upon request. Any funds remaining within the escrow after approval of the special use application shall be returned in a timely manner to the applicant. Wow, that's a long section right there, man.
Take a moment. Good job.
Did you just say you volunteered? Thanks, Doug.
You did good.
All right, let's get right on down to D then.
Well, hold on, I had a couple of thoughts here.
Okay.
This $15,000 on this escrow account, how did we come up with that number? I mean, we talked about this, one of the things that we wanted to make sure was that the township didn't short it. I mean, is 15,000, plenty, or can we shoot to that pretty quick? These are the questions I
I've
had.
had a huge inflation.
Yeah, that's what you could do, is you put in the caveat, whether it's 15 or 20 or whatever that amount is, you need a consultant to tell you that, for what the reclamation, what that process would be, but on the same note, you could build in plus the rate of inflation.
Because who knows if it's 10 years from now.
Well, that's already built in there.
Yeah, all right.
It says if other funds are required, then they have 30 days to
Right.
put those in there. So
Right.
that's already built in.
So it comes
Okay.
back
But
into the
this is,
township's
but this is
responsibility.
just for the construction, correct?
Yeah.
Well, it's
I think
for
it's
the
the
engineer, consultants,
I
Attorney.
realize that, but I mean, it'll end once the construction ends, correct?
yeah, that's what it seemed like when I was
We
reading
don't
it.
have to worry too much about inflation unless you, you could say inflation because of,
What if they apply for it
who
5
knows
years
what
from
the
now?
next president's gonna do to it.
Well, right. I mean, and I was going back to, I know you think that Sarah Mills is all about this, but I think she's kind of objective myself. But it says, good to ensure enough money to evaluate the proposal, so I'm thinking, we put in 15,000, that's something she made a comment on, maybe it should be more.
I mean, it's just an escrow, so I don't see an issue with making a little bit more. Like you said.
That was the one thing that I come up
I
with.
mean, 15
Daryl was
years, 10
reading.
years from now, probably ain't gonna be nothing.
Well, that's what it is.
Right.
Get you, but,
Yeah.
If it, if
you know, a
it's,
handshake, who knows?
if it's 10 years before anything starts, you're right. So, I mean,
What do you wanna do, move that up to 25?
I don't know if we even put a number, I mean, is there a way to write it where we don't put?
we got, they gotta have something to put in escrow.
Exactly.
To
No,
get
I
permit.
understand that.
You gotta
but
start
like,
with something.
I mean, if they're making hundreds of millions of dollars investment into some farmland, a $10,000 increase in what goes into escrow and they're gonna get it back, I don't think is a deal breaker.
My point was, she made a comment about it, and it
Right.
made me think about it, and that was the purpose of
Why
it.
don't we make it like 1% of the total project cost, because we have to have a project.
With a minimum of
That way, if the project cost goes up there, escrow.
Because that would be more work
makes
for
sense.
us, so then it would be,
Most of the project costs would be incurred after you approve the special use permit. Most of that investment is in labor, construction of the project, that would be after, so that would be a question I
So you
would
wouldn't
have.
know your total figure until.
Yeah, I wouldn't know it until.
And then again, as you
I
guys
like
are
the
pointing
idea of
out,
just increasing it to make us feel like we've done some good.
well, I thought if you filled out the application, wouldn't you have to have, you'd have to have all that information already available.
You have to have a rough estimate.
we would have a rough estimate, but again, if it was to be the
Well,
project cost at
Yeah,
that
why don't we
point.
just do the estimate cost of the project at like 1%? I mean, they're gonna be getting the money back, so it's not like it's hurting anything, and they're obviously investing into it. And then because with inflation or whatever, then it's gonna always be that 1%
You know, 1% of what? The entire valuation of that
Or it could
project?
be
The application,
It could
after
be
the
lower
estimate
than
of
that,
the
whatever
application.
ends up being roughly.
If he's
45.
saying hundreds of millions of dollars, that's a lot of money to be putting in an escrow
Even
account.
a 0.5%.
Yeah, but
I'm
it
just
could be-
saying just the percentage wise, because then it would go up with the project.
2%.
I would point out, I mean, regardless of what the number is, we are not able to get our special use permit without making sure there are enough funds for you guys to conduct the due diligence that you are comfortable doing.
It's the planner, it's the attorney, it's the engineer.
And it's also anything that is related to the project.
So, what do you wanna make it? You wanna make it 50?
25 is the number.
And because then you've also got it where you can review that anyway.
And they got 30 days to add to it.
Right.
So you're saying change 15 to 25?
I'm happy with
So
that.
that way they know what they've got to predict and what they've got to do, or if they're gonna go in and there's letter or credit, or different things that you can take on approaches.
Is there any type of studies for like, any type of glare off your panels?
I'd be happy to provide you with their studies.
I'm just curious, like, that should go inside of this whole presentation on your application.
Yep, and we have seen instances where they've required a glare study. If you want, I can cut to the chase and tell you what we found in the glare studies. Be happy to provide, we'd be happy to provide one as part of our due diligence, part of the application process.
Solar panels and glass.
If the similar certification organization is approved by the township, which approval shall not be unreasonably withheld. F, height. Maximum height of a solar array shall other collect one or more parcels with an aggregate area of 10 acres or greater. H, setbacks. A minimum setback distance of 50 feet from all lot lines of any non-participating parcels existing public roads and railroad rights of way to be measured from the full operating width, closest point of the solar panel, array of the large solar energy system at minimum tilt. Setback shall be 100 feet from all lot lines of non-participating lots that have an existing dwelling. 1. Large solar energy systems must have a setback distance of 75 feet from all structures on participating lots. 2. Fencing shall be set back 30 feet from all non-participating lot lines, existing public roads and railroad right-of-ways. 3. The evergreen or native vegetative buffer at time of planting shall be set back 15 feet from all non-participating lot lines, existing public roads and railroad rights-of-way. 4. When an adjacent property is participating in the large solar energy system, there shall be no required setback for solar arrays from the shared lot line. I, lot coverage, a large solar energy system is exempt from any maximum lot coverage limitation. J, screening, security, a large solar energy system shall be completely enclosed by perimeter security fencing to restrict unauthorized access in accordance with federal guidelines. Such fencing shall be at least 7 feet in height. Use of razor or barbed wire, electrified fences, spikes, and similarly security materials shall be prohibited. The perimeter of large solar energy systems shall be screened and buffered by installed evergreen or native vegetative plantings whenever existing natural vegetation does not otherwise reasonably obscure the large solar energy system from adjacent residential structures. The large solar energy systems shall be screened and buffered by evergreen or native vegetative planting, subject to the following requirements.
Okay.
Real quick.
I've
Answer the question.
got some things on this page, and I'm gonna excuse myself for a second here.
Take a break.
I'm gonna.
What was your question?
How did we come up with the 7-foot fence? How did we come up with
If I may,
that? That's an oddball size.
7-foot fence is required by the national federal regulations. It's either a 6-foot fence with 3 strands of barbed wire. Many communities we run into, no one wants to see barbed wire around, so they go 7 foot. We do intend to use an agricultural style fence, not trying to use chain link to make it more aesthetically appealing.
What's
But-
an agricultural style fence? What do you mean?
Like a square grid.
Yes.
Square cattle
Yep.
pens.
If we put up screens, we'll never see the fence.
But we are required
So-
by the National Electric Code to fence it in.
I mean, just
That
like,
is something we have
are
to
you
do.
required for a certain size so people can't climb up it, kids can't climb up it and go over, just like, around the pool?
Mhm.
So you wouldn't be able to use square, because those, unless they're like little 1-inch
I
squares.
mean, that'd be a pretty small kid to squeeze in one of those
But I mean,
squares.
is it little 1-inch? I'm just curious, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't picked one out yet because we're still waiting for the ordinances to be finalized.
'Cause I'm thinking square, I've seen them, they're
Mhm.
4x4 or whatever, people put them on their own or whatnot. Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it would be
Does it
suitable to
have to
keep
be
people
for-
out.
Because like, according to the National Pool Code, you can't have anything that basically a foot can go into climb,
Mhm.
which requires a smaller, size.
And the whole point of the fence
On the
is to
same
keep people
note,
I'm just
outside.
curious if that's the way it
But on the
goes.
same note, you watch little kids put their toes and climb that just like.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, this is what they require, I'm
Yeah,
just, I'm just,
yeah,
I
I
don't
know.
know. I just wondered what you guys have done, or whatever. Is it something we need to put in here about that? About non-climbable, whatever the code is for that?
Well, then you're back to razor wire, barbed wire.
No.
Yeah.
No. Style fencing.
Any other style you could climb.
No, they make chain link fencing that have smaller holes where you can stick your foot in and climb up.
Well, that's just toe holes.
Why don't we start at F right
Yeah.
at the top and we'll work our way down?
Only it's,
Okay.
We're gonna start at
Or
D,
somebody has somebody higher
Mr.
up.
Chairman, we're
Yeah.
gonna start
Yeah,
at D.
So deep.
That's, I mean,
Okay.
codes,
Yeah.
that's, you ain't got anything to say about that anyway.
And actually that, and within that, National Electric Safety, there's also guidelines regarding substations too. So I was looking it up.
Okay.
E's about the same way, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we get to F, maximum height.
Okay.
I feel like 20 foot's just a little too high after thinking about it. And we talked about the berms being around the ponds being too high at 20 foot. I don't foresee anything over 10 foot that we need more than 10 foot. I mean, that's my personal thought. I don't see why 20 foot's pretty tall. And it's also gonna be setting up in the air and 20 foot. Well, 20 foot from the
20
ground.
feet off the ground.
20 foot, but still.
Well, it's 20 feet at when
That's
it's
the
vertical.
tallest point.
That's what,
When it stood right straight up, yes.
What's a normal panel size?
A double portrait high panel, which is not what we intend to use on this project, would be between 16 and 18 feet. Could go up to 20 foot, depending on the exact dimensions of the panel. As I mentioned, we don't intend on using that style of panel on, or that style of configuration on this project. We intend on using single portrait high, which can go from about 10 feet to 12 feet.
So if we.
So your 10 feet's right there where you're at.
Well,
So if we
true, but
compromise,
you're gonna have to have some room underneath it.
Well, I think that's the
No.
peak though, that's, I think.
No, you said the panel size was 10 to 12.
About 10 to 12 feet would be
So
the
you
size of the
have to
panel
have
that would be a
some
single
room
portrait high for a
underneath
project
to
like
get
this.
it
What's the
underground.
installed and operating height?
Hmm?
What's the installed and operating height roughly?
Yeah, it's installed at maximum tilt, it would be right around 10 feet. And then depending on the actual, how you measure it, the grade of the ground and everything, that's why we generally ask for 10 to 12 feet.
So from
So if you went 12 feet, you're covered.
ground to the top of the panels, 10 feet is what you're saying, even on the mount and everything?
Yep.
I have a question for you. You keep saying on this particular project, but currently, I didn't think you guys had any projects in London Township, so which project were you talking about, London Township?
I was not trying to refer to any particular project in London Township, I apologize if I gave you that impression.
Okay.
Let's go back to that panel height. And if we can stay on point, like, and knock one thing out at a time, this is
Well, I
gonna
just- I
go
just
really
think this-
quick.
Yeah, well,
You know what I
he was
mean?
talking about the things, I just wanted to see what.
Cause I've been on this thing
I
since
thought there might be
June
something I was missing,
of
that's all.
2020. So I mean, if we can knock out one thing at a time,
so if we
that
can
would be
change that
great.
to 12 foot, that gets us,
No, I agree with you, I just kinda curious, cause if he had something in the plan, then I could kinda.
So we're looking at 12 feet then.
Yeah.
12 feet got, we've
12
got it
Plan,
covered.
not 12 foot, yeah.
okay, well, what if we change that 20 to 12?
Because I believe Augustus.
Yeah, but this is saying buildings too. Components or buildings of large solar array system.
Well, the only place there's any buildings is in the sub.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
there'll
it
be
says
little
it.
buildings, you don't think?
I think.
Is there any little buildings or
Seems
anything going on? Nothing in the whole solar array
If
at all?
we ever had to, come for a
Maintenance
building, it
building?
would be a whole different special use permit application, it wouldn't be under this, current one. It'd be a completely different one. We'd have to come with you, completely different application.
So you don't put like a maintenance building inside the solar array?
Inside the solar array, you'll have the solar panels themselves, the access roads and the inverters, as well as the collection lines.
How big are the birds?
About the size of a semi-trailer.
So another portion on F that
No, I'm already on edge here, man.
Way too straight in the face.
Roughly, how big are
Don't say the size of a semi-trailer.
No, they're not, they're quite a bit smaller.
they? Like height wise?
Like a pod.
I mean,
They're about,
less than 10 though?
they're less than 10 feet.
So what you're saying is 12 feet would cover it, and no
Yes.
question. That's all we care.
Perfect.
Yeah, like I say, if you change that from not to exceed 12 feet, that gives you a little bit of comfort.
Okay.
So that brings us to that substation and electrical transmission equipment. I mean, when you're talking about electrical transmission equipment, I mean, there's just wires, right?
Right.
There's nothing else, so why can't we say substation and electrical transmission lines and take that equipment out of there? Then there won't be any, worry about something being 100 feet tall.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
because you're gonna come out of this substation, this building, and you're just gonna have wires go up to connect to the other wires,
Right,
essentially, right?
There is a switch yard, there is some towers associated with the substation generally, that's around 30 to 40 feet. The tallest portion of the substation is connecting into those high-capacity transmission lines.
So are they the height of the transmission lines?
They have to get to the height of the
Yeah.
transmission line to be able to connect
Structure.
into it.
but
Can you,
It's a pole.
I mean,
you're
good-
at-
I would be happy to try to find a dimension of the substation for a project of this size and provide it for you guys as
do you happen to have
reference.
a picture of?
I don't have a picture of one right off the top of my head. not
So
for
roughly,
something-
I would say those lines to the top are every bit of 100 feet. So you're gonna have some type of structure 100 feet tall
that's,
to get to it.
he's gonna provide us what a substation is gonna look like, what'd you say that was? Not the
switch yard
substation, yeah, the
Yeah.
switch yard. So, I'm gonna put on this, pictures of switch yard and dimensions, so supplied by Colin.
And can we figure out, so we have an idea of where the sublines would go, or substations would go, because it would have to follow transmission lines, and we only have two sets of transmission lines in one township roughly. Is there a way to find the height of those? Would DTE know, give that?
No, I think it's controlled by ITC.
Could we find that height?
Aren't you gonna go up to one of the poles per se?
What it
Get
say
to
on there?
the actual transmission line? I mean, it's not gonna be, it shouldn't be any different than, our power line.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's more
I mean,
wide.
those transmission lines are 100 feet every bit. I'm just curious if, cause they, like you said, they have to build a structure to that level to do a parallel line to connect into it. They're not running lines 100 feet in the air to the transmission. They have to have some type of structure up to that height, a tower.
That's what I asked you, if it went up the pole or not.
And I'd be happy to get a dimension, an actual drawing of what it would be like and how it would connect into the transmission line for your guys' reference.
So it's connected to the pole,
Right.
then it's.
So
It's
you're
just
gonna
added
get
to
that
the
to
pole,
us
it would
before
be
the
right
next
there.
meeting?
I will get that to you.
So if you
before
get
the-
it to Mike right there, he can send it out to all the board members.
Yep, will do.
Because right now, what we're discussing is, it goes back to physics, because they have to be able to move electrons to do it safely. We were having a conversation with a PPE employee here just recently, and I didn't realize it occurs here in Michigan along our freeways that we get pole fires in the wintertime, and that's because of the salt and the mist off the road goes up, and salt's highly conductive for electricity. They have this problem in California along the coastline all the time, so they have to do the review, and you have to increase the bar width to prevent that conductivity from taking place. So I'm saying that we can sit here and discuss this at length, but it comes back to what they have to do for engineering for safety.
Well, I mean, what we're discussing is the height of the
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
And if he has to build a structure to the top of those poles, that's gonna be a 100-foot structure.
It would be
Unless they
a structure,
attach it
it's
to
a
the
pole,
pole.
it's a pole of
Tower.
wire.
It's just a tower.
Pole of wire.
He's gonna get us some pics of what this is gonna look like, and you know what that's gonna help us do? That's gonna help us, make a decision on what kind of trees, shrubs, or whatever we need around that. What kind of fencing needs to be around that, how high it is.
I'm sure
Concertina
there's a
wire,
code for
razor
fencing
wire,
for
the
substations,
top,
right? 10
electrified.
feet, 10 or 12.
I would guess, I don't know
They
the
usually
exact
put
code.
hot
off
wire
of
on
that.
them.
He's gonna get it for us.
Electrical code's pretty intense.
That's why I'm saying there should be a different ordinance for substations compared to solar.
Well, when he gets
Yeah,
us some
7-foot
pics
fence.
and dimensions and stuff,
Which I think
we can go from there.
A little bit.
I
think we
was
do
gonna
have a
say,
section.
we have a section for the substation.
But,
Right.
but some of the stuff you're asking isn't in that, I believe, so. it will go
But
back.
when we get the rest of the information from him, we can
Right.
put it in here,
Sounds good.
right?
I say let's move on to the next one.
So lot size G, are we all done with F?
Yep,
So lot size G, a large solar energy system shall be located on one or more parcels with an aggregate area of 10 acres or greater.
I personally think that's a little small.
Yeah, for a large solar, yeah, I just,
You don't enlarge that, you're gonna have people trying to put it everywhere. 100 acres.
10 acres?
What are you thinking? Add a zero to that?
Well,
Yeah.
right underneath the power lines on Plank Road, we created over the years a number of spaghetti farms, which we had 100-foot frontage, and so it had to be 5 acres, so I call them spaghetti farms, because that's all you could grow, is something long and straight. So there's plenty of areas where people could tie their back portions together to create a large solar array.
Well,
But
but I
it'd take
feel
a lot
that,
of people.
why can't they combine, oh, you're saying different owners?
Yeah.
well, that's what this is.
I've
Well,
got
let me-
parcels
let me-
where
Let me finish my concept here, because, yeah, it's, I've got 5 acres, so I'm not gonna give you 5 acres, I might have 3-acre parcels, so I'm gonna have to string, what would that be, 3, 6, 7 parcels together to make it happen, but I would have the center right there at that, power transmission, so.
Now, I can understand if transmission lines had to go through that, but I can't understand creating a solar array through
I don't-
3 acres, 5 acres, 3 acres, 5 acres, when you can't even have the setbacks that we haven't even talked about yet.
Well,
Yeah, it's
here's the other thing I think about that 10 acres or greater. If I'm going to, make decisions about people digging ponds or extractions, and I'm gonna base that on a percentage of the size of the land that they own, I'm certainly gonna base this off a formula that's something like that. So if it's 100 acres, this is how many acres you get. If you got 200 acres, this is how many acres you get.
Well, I kinda thought that was more, so if that was, so you could add somebody that had 10 acres alongside somebody that had a 40, you could tie it on.
If I could
with that
illustrate,
more.
because what Leroy's alluding to is exactly right. If you go to Frenchtown Township, it's called bowling alleys, because they're 100 foot wide and they're half-mile deep. But the back half of that might be an 80-acre field that all those parcels, property owners are renting to one farm. And it'd be the same way that all those parcel owners are renting to one solar company. They're deriving an income, then they put their kids through college, but it then gives efficiency for scale for where they're gonna put it in. And that's where that concept is, whether it's, greater than 10 acres. Like, let's say you got 10 acres, the next guy's got 10 acres, the next guy's got 30 acres, the next guy's got 10 acres. You put it all together, you got 50 acres for the solar array. It's an income generator for yourself, or for whoever the property owners are.
I guess if we
That's-
decide
that's
on
what that-
setbacks and they can make it work within the little bit of land they got, then.
So we'd still have the same setbacks though, correct?
Yeah, you'd still have the same setbacks, but then they would be participating parcels.
That's the situation. You do not need a setback because it's on their own property
Yeah.
Well, you
Have to.
You still need to
Just
set
from the
back
I disagree
along,
with that.
from buildings.
you still, from the
Yeah.
building, right,
Well-
so if all these 10 acre parcels have 6 acres at the back that's being farmed, and they all tie all these 6 acres together, they still have to be set back from the buildings. and-
Unless,
But they don't have to have a setback
I
between.
got a quick
each one.
question. Why in the world would they not need a setback if they are a participating person? I have to have a setback to build a garage on my own property.
Yeah,
Why
we
do
have
they
to
not
set
have to have a setback?
Well, the problem is with
That's
this,
ridiculous.
hold on, real quick.
They still have a setback. There's a setback for participating and non-participating.
Which
Yeah,
is
hold on. I got a quick question.
Somebody moves in that building.
Well, then they receive the income, because then you'd have it as a deed restriction, because the lease goes with the property.
I have a quick question, and this is gonna, I think, pretty much straighten us out pretty quick. So, if I have 4 parcels that work together, and they're all 5 acres, can I do a pond extraction and dig across all 5 of them? Can I do that?
If you combine the parcels.
If you combine them, so why can't we just make them combine then?
That's
So
the
it's
way
same
we-
thing.
that's the way
what my
we've
point
always
was.
So why are we doing it?
So-
Just combine them.
It's just like, I've got 3 different farms that I am renting one field from 3 different people.
Yeah.
I got another farm that I'm renting.
No, and I
Separate those parcels. When a project's together, it's no longer separated. Wires are running from one to another.
But it comes back to that property owner agreed to it. It was his property.
It doesn't matter, there's
No,
ordinances.
because what if they sell
What's
it?
the purpose?
All right, listen, if they sell it, that goes with, it's just like if you had a phone tower on a parcel. There's some people in the Milan Township that got a phone tower, and anyway, they're considering selling the property. And I said, you should lot that tower off and keep it as an income generator for you or your kids or your grandkids. They were thinking that they wanted to sell it off, and then whoever bought the property is gonna pay a huge price, because then they're going to derive the income, which nobody in their right mind should, because half these tower companies are now trying to draw you down on what the rental rates are. So you can't actually guarantee that if you're buying it that way. But back to the situation, if that person has owner's property, and he is willing to do that, whether he's there for 2 years or 200 years, it's his choice, and the
So it
setbacks.
goes back to my-
But wait, let me finish.
All right.
That setback from his home is standard, and so whoever he sells that home to knows they're buying that property, and they're going to receive that income, because it goes with that lease with the property.
So, my question would be, why can't we do that with bonds or extractions?
What
They
if-
own them, they own it right
What
there.
happens if the
They're
middle's
gonna agree on it
back
themselves.
out?
Actually, on extractions, we have allowed that, as you said, ponds.
Ponds or extractions.
Well, extractions have gone across property lines.
Wait a minute, this has brought up an interesting point, because now you even if I'm participating in the current ordinance, I have to have setbacks from the building. So we have to write that in any, actually all parcels,
Yes.
because we don't have it there now.
Well, we do to a certain extent for existing buildings, for participating and then non-participating, it's two different.
Right, but you don't have, you don't have a number in there like we do for, you know, different things for, like you can't build something or, put something closer than your back lot, you know, your back,
Right.
your buildings, let's say your barn, it's got to set in so many
Right.
feet from
Jim
your
just
back,
talked about,
back
yeah.
line.
Right.
So that has to be added in here, which would solve this whole concept.
That's
Okay.
that's what Daryl read in H with all portions part of that, and that's one of that
But
paragraph.
I still think
Go ahead.
that he's got a very good point about crossing property lines with one project due to what happens if the middle guy decides he doesn't want the solar?
Then all setbacks
He's
are
not
in place.
enjoying.
Yeah, the setbacks are in place, they have a long-term.
Yeah, but they got all their lines going
They-
through there.
They've
How
got,
do they connect
they've
them?
got long-term agreements. They're not gonna build a solar array or cut across the property unless it's a 50 or 80-year agreement.
So I hope if you allow this, you allow the next guy that comes with a four partial, not to have to combine their partials to create a whole establishment for a pond house or whatever. That's basically what you're doing.
Because most of the people who've done ponds have done them under extraction and they wouldn't have to.
If I decided, if I had two separate parcels, and I wanted to build on one and put a pole barn on the other, you would make me combine them because I can't put a pole barn on that property.
You could.
Absolutely not.
On a separate piece.
No,
In
unless I had,
Raisonville
unless I.
Township, we have it. In London, we haven't. We've had people build barns.
You're telling me I can build a barn on vacant land?
Yes.
I was told I couldn't do that.
By who?
By our old zoning enforcement.
Well, but are we, so that, all right, if we
So I
can
can
get
just-
that portion of our.
Outside of farm.
Go ahead.
Outside of farm.
Wait, Daryl.
So I got a question
You
for
hear that,
Colin.
Neil? Build a barn.
Are you familiar with a practice that Apex does or Azalea Solar called the Good Neighbor Policy?
Yep.
So, if I'm enrolled in that good neighbor policy, and I only have 5 acres,
Yep.
and I say, you know what, I want to participate in that good neighbor policy, and there's not a solar panel on my land,
Right.
am I now a participator in the solar array?
You are considered a participant in the project, yes. And you
How
would be,
far can those solar panels come up to my lot line now?
under your current draft ordinance, it would be 75 feet from all
For a
participating structures.
non-participating,
Large, it says, it must have a setback distance of 75 feet from all structures on participating lots.
so if 2 people, is there something in that good neighbor policy that says
It's right here.
if you are a participator, you participate in this good neighbor policy, the solar array can go right up to your lot line? Is there something in that he's got that says that?
There is a setback waiver for the language that you guys have in here, where you have differing non-participating setbacks and participating setbacks.
But
And that
if-
would allow us to come closer, but still be under your ordinance. In other instances, some residents have said, we feel more comfortable if we have a number in there, and that's something we've been willing to do.
So if.
And my
essentially
neighbor is
they
willing to
comply
get-
as a
my neighbor's getting
participating
300
person,
feet.
not a non-participating.
What was that?
setback on his, because he didn't agree to that, he went to his lawyer, and got a 300-foot setback, he says, oh, we can probably do that for you. For
Tim,
you,
everybody in Milan Township has a 300-foot setback. from
that's the
residents.
starting point. Okay, when you put it across the street from my house, you're going 75 foot from the road, center of the road back. I'm 150 foot off, I'm at 225 foot, they're getting 300, and I gotta look out my front window to see the shit, and that's 225 feet. Give me 300 or more, 500, 1,000.
Tim,
There's no
we have
reason for me
given
to
you-
look for it.
We have given you 300 feet. You have
Bullshit.
to
All right,
meet
all right.
us to look at the layout.
So-
Bring it back up here.
Says it waives all such setbacks and setback requirements for the benefit of the grantee or the owner.
Well,
All
what did you
adjacent
get?
real property and their respective successors and assign the setback waiver further as requested by the grantee.
The setback waiver is from being a non-participating to
to participate.
participate in the parcel, so they still have to comply with the setback that's set by whatever township it's got.
It'd be the same as if they weren't in the good neighbor agreement, if they just were a landowner and they owned the residence on the farmland.
So I thought, last meeting, whenever I asked you that, you said that they could, that they
Yeah,
could come
when I
closer.
reread through this thing, that's
No,
where,
it says,
that's where
let me read this
they're
whole
participating.
paragraph, so you understand. To the extent that any applicable law, ordinance, regulation, or permit establishes minimum setbacks from the exterior boundaries of the property from any structure of the property occupied or otherwise, or from any other point of measurement for solar facilities, including solar panels constructed on adjacent real property or otherwise within the solar project, the owner hereby expresses waives any, and all such setbacks and setbacks requirements for the benefit of the grantee, the owner of the adjacent real property.
Doug,
And their respected successor and assigns the setback waiver. Further, if requested by the grantee, owner shall execute and deliver to grantee one or more separate setback waivers and or easements in the form provided by the grantee, which the grantee may record in its expense. Setback waiver shall survive the termination of this agreement for so long as solar panels or other solar facilities exist on real property adjacent to the property.
right, Doug, I want you to read H4 on ours.
On our, I thought you were pointing to
Oh, no,
Sarah's stuff.
H4.
Okay. Yes.
Read that out
Yeah,
loud for
when an
me.
adjacent property is participating in the solar system, there shall be no required setback for the solar array from the shared lot line.
That's right.
Yeah,
So,
that's a problem.
when somebody gets their participation, money, whatever, and they don't actually have solar panels on there, even this ordinance says that setback is waived.
As long as
That's,
we're 75 feet away from all
But
the
that's-
structures on their property.
yeah, that's,
Yeah.
so you can go right up to that lot line with this.
Yeah, so if their house is 100 feet away from their property, they're butting it right tight.
Right, it's one continuous.
Now, that's what the language says, that's not something that we're doing.
It says from the lot
Then
line.
why did you write it?
I think we're changing the language, I mean,
I-
that's what my opinion is.
Absolutely, I don't agree with that, because I don't think, looking at that, reading that participation agreement, I don't believe it's right for somebody, 30 years ago to be able to assign my rights away if I want something. I am not down with that, and I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not down with that. I don't believe anybody from 30 years ago has a right to waive any of my rights, period.
And we still wouldn't be able to put it right on the property line, because we'd still have to do screening, we'd still have to do fencing, and even between fencing and the solar array itself is about a 20-foot buffer.
Yeah, it's gonna be further than 20 feet
It's
in my
similar-
mind.
I'm just
Right.
talking
This-
from
The illustration,
participating.
though, that does occur, if you live in an association, whether it's condos or a resort association, they may be, it's a deed restriction community, and within that, you then abide by their bylaws and rules, which says no hunting, or you have to have a brass flagpole. I mean, some of these things are pretty intrusive for what they got.
Yeah.
But you know that up front when you buy the property and when you sell the property, those are the rules that go with
Necessarily,
it.
you
That's
could
the same
inherit
way.
the property.
Yeah, well, that's right, you could inherit,
don't
but
want
either way,
that.
but either way, it came with the property.
Well, there was a guy,
We
there was a guy in here a couple of months ago with a deed restriction that he didn't know anything about.
That's right.
Yeah,
You
and
know-
I had phone calls from both realtors and both attorneys, and I took care of that because nobody at the township could handle it.
You know, so I just don't want there to be any misunderstandings 30 years from now, you know.
I think the
When I'm-
setbacks should stay all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
there
we
should be
set
no-
setbacks, it should stay all the same, participating or not. That's my.
So, I don't even think 4 should be in
I
there,
think so.
honestly.
Just delete it.
So I mean,
Well,
this
hold
can
on.
be, this,
Well, Daryl, you might want to word it, because if we don't have it, then they could assume it. Maybe we should word it that it cannot. I
no,
don't know.
because it comes under setbacks.
Yeah, it's true.
Because that's what we're really talking about in number 4, is setbacks, in the waiver of setbacks in number 4. So, I'm
Now,
making these note,
That setback would not be different for a dwelling. I'm reading it that, for property adjacent, if you had the parcel and you did mine and you were getting paid, even though they didn't come onto you, it could come up to your property line.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
But it still would be away from your dwelling.
Yeah.
It'd still be on them setbacks.
But we're
right?
saying
Yeah.
it needs to
It could
stay
be-
from
it
the
could be
property
bare
line
land.
setback is what he's getting at.
No, they would be able to avoid that setback and go right up tight to your property line if
Yes.
you participate.
Right.
Like, let's say you have 100, 500, whatever foot setback originally, that's exempt if you say you participate on the next
Yeah.
door neighbor.
Well, if you can participate, you wanna do that, then you're getting checked for doing that.
You're getting a good,
That's a good neighbor, right,
good neighbor guy.
right.
Well, we're trying to get out of
For 5 years,
drivers or
whatever.
drivers.
Let's
Yeah.
do a lifetime of the project.
No, it's
No,
not.
no, it's not. It's in something, there's 5 things in here.
Okay.
The other thing is the
Oh, there's 5
neighbor
Yeah.
across the road.
I'm not sure what agreement you have, I apologize.
Solar
From
panel,
Texas, they all sold them.
unless you have,
Yeah.
so
This is
you
what
need to
they handed out
modify
to
it.
everybody.
Well, the project's gotta have the screening around it, I thought.
Well, but if you waive,
I think he's saying if it's
you
across
gotta
the road.
make
you
sure
waive
that
it,
that's
get
a true
closer.
statement, let's put it that way.
Okay.
To me, it's not clear, so
Okay.
maybe that's a better way to do it.
What's that?
To add, let them go ahead and do the minimum, but also include, it must have the screening, like, he said he'd do it, but he's not the one that's doing the work, okay? It seems like things disappear once they leave certain places and wind up with the worker. The worker's doing what he thinks the right thing to do, but we should see it in the plan, even though they wanna move that closer to their property, they still have to have screening between it and the solar panel.
We're doing.
I know if I'm making an investment, and I don't care what kind of investment it is, if I'm making an investment, I'm definitely gonna maximize my,
That's true. And that's what I think we should try and stop right here.
that's right.
Is to say the screening must also abide by the adjoining, if you want it closer to your property, that's your choice. But the screening must still be in place.
Yeah.
I'm for taking that right out of there.
Yeah, it's all together completely out.
You can be whatever you want, but, I mean, if somebody's got less than 10 acres, and we're saying that
Right.
in the original draft, if somebody's got 5 acres and they wanna do that, I'm saying that's going against what we've already said in this. Because now we're allowing that to come right up to there.
We might as well get rid of the setbacks altogether then.
Especially
Just let
on a
them-
spaghetti
let them
farm.
negotiate it then. Well, yeah, because they can just negotiate what the setbacks are, other than off the dwelling.
Right.
So you might as well just get rid of the setbacks and just let them negotiate
That's
it.
not our job.
Well,
Period.
if we allow that, then they're going to negotiate with everybody and get rid of all of our setbacks.
They
other than
got
the dwelling.
money, and money
Yeah.
talks, so when they start throwing money out there, that's when people start bowing down doing what
Yeah.
I
they want.
understand. I
Money
understand.
talks.
That's why I say it still should be defined. It
Doesn't
still
mean it's
should
right.
say the screen.
500 foot.
Otherwise,
Well, we're
like
just-
Jim said, all they can do is they darn well please.
But that's why Daryl's saying just get rid of it altogether. We don't have to worry about the screening getting closer, none. It's just gonna be at whatever those
So
setbacks
that's an
are.
open, so your next door neighbor has an open solar panel right next to his lot
It
line.
can't, he's getting rid of it. They can't come up next to the lot line. Right? You know, that's what we just.
Still
that's
gotta
what we just
abide by
agreed
the
on.
setbacks, and when we get to those buffers, we can change that as well. We're not there yet.
Yeah, we haven't got there yet.
So we were just
No,
on,
we're doing beyond.
we were
what you're
just
saying.
on F.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and Colin's gonna get us that information on what I wrote down is you're gonna get us
We went to-
the pics of the
Yeah,
substation,
Yeah.
the switch yard, yeah.
So
You're
want to
gonna
change
get that to
10
Mike, and
acres
he's
to
gonna get it to
something
us.
else?
Harold, you're still on G,
You're on
because you haven't
G.
talked about the acres yet. We talked about.
Acres, remember?
Yeah,
We can-
yeah,
But you read all the way through.
yeah,
Right, we've read all the way through it.
Colin.
yeah. So a large solar system shall be located on one or more parcels within an aggregate acre of 10 acres or greater.
If meeting setbacks.
No, may I ask?
It doesn't, those setbacks, it's not gonna matter because setbacks are gonna govern setbacks.
Yeah.
It's not gonna matter on the.
I can see
on
both
the-
sides of the story with
The
that.
dimensions of that 10 acres, if it's a square 10 acres, that's gonna be different than a 10 acres that's 2 acres wide and then 5 acres
And
long.
it depends on what's on both sides of it.
That's right.
So what you wanna do is you look at H where it talks about the
the setback on participating parcels and non-participating. So if it's a non-participating, you've got that 100 feet from the existing house or dwelling, and then where it's a or then it's a participating property, then it's at 50 foot. So then that's a situation where if your home is on that 10 acres and you're gonna then lease that back 5 acres or 8 acres to that 200 acres or whatever, then you still are gonna have that 50-foot buffer and 50-foot setback because
50
it's-
feet from
yeah,
your house?
Yeah, that's what.
You realize how close
But it,
No, 50
but it's
foot
their,
from the lot.
it puts it back that it's their
No,
choice.
from a structure.
Now, on the same note, let's say if you wanna be participating and you've only got 5 acres, you may ask them to be 150 feet, or you might ask, or rather you might ask them for that 100 foot, and they
No, I
might
should
abide
hear
by it.
farther than that.
I don't think we're gonna allow anybody to ask anything. I think we define everything in this ordinance exactly how it needs to be. There's no asking anybody anything. When people come in here for ponds or extractions, we're not asking them, maybe you can do this or
No.
bundle this many lots together. I think we define it so it's clear, it's cut and dry. There are no question marks left because I, for one, am not gonna regret doing this if every single thing is not covered, and to protect the citizens of this township to my utmost ability.
When you read
I'm
through
gonna
the
tell you.
setbacks, you've got that pretty well covered.
Yeah.
You read those setbacks where you got the setback for the 50 and the 100, and it defines in the 75 for what's participating, what's non-participating. Well, we got it pretty clear.
The setbacks to me are way.
Those
way-
setbacks,
No.
those
Might as well
setbacks,
put
I don't
another
think
zero on
those
all of them.
setbacks right there should be anything different than an extraction or anything else, and that's an established land use already. So if it's 450 feet from the center of the road, or more than one entrance in 600 feet, I don't believe that this should be treated any different when it comes to setbacks, and I think that's the starting point, that's not the ending point. I think that's a starting point on that. We're not even to the setbacks. I wanna get to that 10 acres or greater. What are you guys thinking?
It wastes a lot of property.
Why can't you farm around it?
Is the intention to apply the setback to vacant participating land as
No,
well?
it's to move it away from residents. so
Yep,
they don't have to
I'm
be up
just
close.
wanted, that's
That's my whole
clarification, vacant participating lot lines, because otherwise, putting a setback on areas, fields that we're gonna have
But you
panel on
never know
either
if somebody's
side.
gonna build there, that's the thing.
But if
That's
we're,
why it
I'm
says existing
just
lot.
saying vacant land that we intend on putting solar panels on, it would create a misuse of the land to have a setback in between those parcels. That's just what I was asking a clarification on.
Oh, right, but, yeah, no, I
It
see what you're
wastes a
saying.
lot of
That's
property.
what I was.
Like, if you got two lands like this, having a setback here and a setback here.
That are
you're gonna
both
have to
vacant
strip.
parcels.
Right.
No, I can understand
That
that.
have a solar panel on them.
Both of them have solar panels on them.
Right.
I could understand
Yeah.
that, but around any other,
Roads.
I think
or
for,
anybody that's not
Contiguous should show up in
participating
there
with the
somewhere.
solar,
Well, I kind of disagree
Contiguous
with that though,
participating
to
parcels.
an extent, because I still feel that there should be the setbacks there, because what happens in 30 years from now, whenever the kid inherits that property, maybe he wants to do something different with it, and then he's gonna have solar panels butted up right to his property, and there's
and
nothing
then the
that
other
person
guy's
can
gonna
do.
sign the contract.
Right, one wants it
You're
for
stuck.
30 years, one
So-
wants it for 60.
so maybe that, on any adjacent properties, it has a buffer zone from however much you guys are thinking. You know, maybe it's a buffer zone, maybe it's not
An easement maybe.
500 feet or whatever it is, but it's a buffer zone so you can drive a vehicle or do whatever
15-foot
down in
easement or
between them.
something, or
Right.
fencing or whatever.
And adjacent,
50 foot
and-
we have here. You know,
and to my mind, an adjacent participation solar array, you're actually gonna have solar panels on that land. Not a good neighbor policy where it says, hey, I'm gonna participate in this solar array, you know, so you can bring that right up to that.
Because it will be
You're
right.
gonna have a solar panel X amount on your property to be able to participate in this. Every single loophole needs to be plugged up that we foresee an issue with.
Well, let me ask
My
you, maybe we
thoughts.
should put that under the definition of actually having a solar
Absolutely.
panel on the property.
a participating.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Through all this, discussion, I'm assuming if, we don't know what assuming means, that if I have two 80-acre fields that are vacant, farm ground, are you saying that between those two 80-acre fields, I'm going to have a buffer zone? Or can I join those two together with one large solar?
Well, that's
Now,
what,
my understanding is that the way I assumed these solar systems were going to go in is if they had, because we tell them to list all the parcels that are involved, that you would see one continuous solar, or you might have a roadway in between, but otherwise than that, it would be considered all inside of that solar system.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
we make individual ones.
Now, my question, and that goes on, now I've got these two joined together. Now I've got another 80-acre field, let's stick with 80, that has a house on it. And they wanna be the part of that large solar system. That's where I also felt that there should be that back setbacks defined somehow. Like you say, is it so many feet from the center of the road might be the best terminology or something like that, but now, when I look across 3 parcels, I would see effectively a solid field of solar panels. Is that what we're envisioning?
I'm envisioning whether it's a 10-foot, a 15-foot, whatever kind of buffer zone you have on that defined property line to go down through there. So if you got 80 acres here, 80 acres here, whatever we decide on as a planning commission for that buffer zone to be.
You missed my entire point.
No,
My entire point was that those panels would not have a restriction in between
Right.
parcels.
Well, he's saying he
then,
wants a
then
restriction.
you would have one property and not two.
Basically.
You would have one property and not two,
Let me
because
ask
we got into that
We're just trying to
discussion
keep the
earlier.
efficiency of the solar
Leroy's
array.
got a valid point, so what you're saying, let's say Leroy owns the 80 and his sister or cousin owns the 80 next door. Are you, so what Leroy wants you to clarify, are you gonna put a buffer down between those two
Absolutely.
80s?
Absolutely.
So you're gonna
Is
have
that
all
under
these
one
little-
property description? Is that under one property?
But wait a
Or is
minute,
there
Put
two?
buffers
Wait a
in
minute,
between
wait a
all the
minute,
properties?
wait a minute.
Yeah.
Not, oh,
Earlier-
that's a waste.
Earlier in this,
Well, who's gonna waste for it?
They're making
But,
millions.
dude,
Where does
that look logistically?
let me tell you something.
Alright, come on.
I got something to say.
We're all getting a little tired.
If you got 80
Leroy
acres,
wasn't
Doug,
done
you
yet.
lease it out to that solar company, he's gonna pay you $1,000 for 80 acres. He has to abide by all the setbacks, he's gonna pay you that $1,000 for the
Yes.
setbacks, he's gonna pay you $1,000 for the buffer. What the hell do you care if you're a farmer and you're still gonna make the same amount of money? We're not here to benefit the solar company, we're here to benefit the residents and the future of this township.
So I got a question for
I don't
you.
understand what the issue is.
If I own two
They're gonna pay the same
parcels,
money.
if I own two parcels that are 320 acres apiece, so I got two parcels that are 320 acres apiece, right? And I'm gonna butt them right up together to have 640 acres of solar panels, which is about a square mile, right? 640 acres, that's about a square mile, isn't it? So if I don't have a buffer zone in that 640 acres, if something goes wrong electrically, or if I need to get emergency vehicles in there to shut something down or to service it before it creates some huge fire, how do we get to that? How do we provide a pathway
you wouldn't let me finish
to do
my
this?
comment. You guys are off doing the same thing I wanted to talk about.
Right.
The difference between a buffer and a road in between,
Leroy's trying to finish his point.
you would have roads in between, I'm quite sure. I mean, these panels can only transmit power so far before they have to run to the main source. So, that was my point, is you're going to force people to put that buffer zone in, which could be 200 feet or 300 feet or whatever, in between the parcels that are adjoining, which we even lose more property. I mean, it's kind of useless along the line, but I
We
wanted
force
to-
people-
I wanted to
But the
ask
homeowner's
Ambex
gonna make the
one-
same amount of money regardless.
I wanted to ask Ambex, how is some of these other parcels in other areas joined together?
Usually, typically on a project like this, regardless of the owner, all the parcels included in the solar project area are allowed to be contiguous. It allows us during our layout with access roads and various other things to make the max extent of the land. If there's a buffer that we're not able to put panels in through, it makes the project larger, as you can imagine. In some instances, we are able to have more panels in the field because we're able to go a little bit onto the neighboring panels, and the racking systems fit well in that way, making, again, maximum efficiency of the land.
So I have a question. Wouldn't everybody assume that the wildlife would have more room if they had some room in between the property lines to be able to get through? If you have 600 acres, for instance, all bound in, where is the wildlife going to go?
Wildlife are gonna be in the solar panel area. Even with the 7-foot fence, we're not gonna keep wildlife out of there.
They always clear 10 foot, and that's what they do.
All grasses and pollinator plants underneath the solar panels. Be lots of pollinator habitat on PA 116 land. They have a pollinator scorecard that we would have to be meeting with in order to utilize those properties.
So how long does that take to get into effect?
We usually put down grass seed and those kind of plants immediately when we go to start construction because it helps us maintain drainage and soil erosion.
So construction year?
Yep, construction's usually safe for a
Okay,
year.
so animals that move out within that year do not come back. So,
Deer will move 20 miles. They've
and
tracked.
then also, once they're spooked, they don't come back.
Right, yeah,
No, they do.
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, we just took out a fence row and how the deer
My
used to
parents
go.
chase off
They
deer
come
all the
back,
time.
well,
Yeah.
a deer, not the same deer.
So
No,
back to
they have
this.
good genetics.
So back to this just real quick. So how would we regulate if two people owned it and we allowed them to do it, but then if somebody just happened to own the property, like what we were talking about before, it goes right back to what we had for number 4. How do we tie 4 in with this? Because as of right now, if you're allowing it to go right up to the property line, it's basically a loophole to bring back number 4 again. So you might as well put 4 back in.
I'm not,
Okay, so if we have,
I've got the lead on here, and that's my thoughts, and you
but you see
know,
what I'm getting at though?
here's what I'll say. You know, we've been doing this for 2 years now, and I have been over this, and over this again. Do things need to be tightened up in here? Absolutely. Absolutely, they need to be tightened up. I think the setbacks need to be tightened up. I think, some of these definitions, Colin's gonna provide for us, and we could stay here till 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're still not gonna get this done tonight.
Oh, I understand.
But what I'll tell you is, we've got enough information now
Do some
to move it forward, to get to a workshop or 2 workshops, to make some dates, when Colin brings some more information for us, and then Doug's gonna provide us some information as well, that we can actually move some of this stuff down the field. I mean,
But
we,
you understand what I'm saying?
Brian O'Shea is our public engagement manager. I'm on the project development team. We both work in the same company, the same group.
I'm just curious why.
Yep.
Cold water?
Hmm?
You know, cold water?
Brian's back in Minnesota tonight.
Oh, he's at home.
You can't always be out here hanging out with us good folk in Michigan.
Oh, you said it.
That's why I sent Colin up to pick the garbage up out of my yard, and when the solar people leave their ribbons laying, it blows over my yard, I gotta call down, come get the garbage out of my yard, and the project hasn't even started.
So,
because, I mean, this is really, where
So are
we're
we
at,
making a motion
is a lot of, that's a lot of the meat in this ordinance right here. That's allowed in this ordinance.
But see, to define that, I still have to understand personally what the concept is. Because on page two, number 4, which says the names of owners of each lot or parcel within London Township that is proposed to be within the large solar energy system. So that says that they are definitely going to join multiple parcels together,
That's what I got that
Absolutely.
for.
okay?
There's so much
Then
fragmentation out here, it's
what
really-
are we, what's the definition between the, I understand, but is, what all are we going to require them to do for those adjoining parcels?
Don't
Because
Well-
there's two different things I hear. There's a participating parcel,
Right,
which has no store system, I'm assuming.
Well,
right,
It's just the neighbor next door.
right,
So we need to define that differently
absolutely.
yeah,
than the participating in the large store
With solar
array.
panels on their property, you're
Yes.
saying. It's
Right.
different than just somebody
Um,
participating coming up next to
So,
your property.
so one thing that I think that we can solve, and I just thought about it, was if, like Leroy was saying, if he owns 2 parcels, I guess I could foresee those 2 being butted together, because he does own them, and if anybody inherited it, it would be his family, whatever, so if they're touching, so be it. Now, if it crosses over, if I own one that was butted up to him, I think they should be at those setbacks, because now, I don't want somebody else to take on the property being right next to mine for my,
I don't have,
that's, maybe we could do that, or we could have it where they, if they own it,
That
they could
was-
be butted together, like you said,
that was not.
somebody else.
Sorry. My problem was, is we got 5 or 6 individuals out there that have properties that are going to
Well-
join together into one large
Yeah.
solar array. And what are we gonna do? We need to define exactly what we're going to do between those 2 versus me and you.
Yeah. Now,
They have to be different.
so the person that's not participating with the solar farm, that doesn't have solar panels on their property at all, I think should have to abide by every single setback we create, period.
So
This
what?
good neighbor
Yeah.
thing's in the trash, cause there is no good neighbor.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even an availability.
Isn't that saying like good fences make good neighbors?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what.
But the thing
So
is
they
that
would
I-
have to acquire, so now on his side of it, now we could put into, if there was gonna require a setback, even maybe a smaller setback compared to a residential area, or a housing or somebody else's property, because you both have solar panels. It wouldn't have to be whatever we decide on, it could be shorter
Right,
if you decide to have that
if
buffer
it's
or
just a
not.
driveway or whatever it is,
But
as long as adjacent properties are both
when you come up,
participating
yeah, when
in
you
the
come up to
solar array.
another residence
Right,
that
but
doesn't have
was
solar
not
panels
the
at
way
all
you
on your
guys were
property,
talking earlier.
it should be setbacks.
Okay, you were talking earlier, even though I am that parcel that has panels on both sides of the road or
Right.
driveway, then I have to have those setbacks and a screening in between.
No, we said a buffer, so whether that buffer was 15 feet or 20 feet, whatever it is,
We
that's,
have
The
to
buffer
define
was under
Yeah.
the screening definition, that's why I drew up that
What-
illustration,
whatever.
that's what Leroy was asking.
whatever that road width you're gonna have to maintain to go down through there. I mean, 10 feet isn't that wide, especially for like a pickup.
You can't, pickup won't fit down
So-
there.
so I have-
So, I mean, if you gotta get a fire truck or something down there, you're gonna have to in my mind, you're gonna have to make it accessible for emergency vehicles to be able to get to wherever they need to get before,
To each person's property.
well, I don't know about each person's property, but
Well,
at
it would,
least
because you
down
have a
through
drive
those
between
panels.
each property.
The
But
project
from
design
the
is
notes,
made for emergency
if I may-
vehicles to be able to access the interior portions of the solar panel area. Again, what allowing us to do, going across multiple parcels with different landowners, or same landowner with different parcels, allows us the maximum efficiency of the land. Be able to use the rackings usually comes in 100-foot, 200-foot sections, we can't come up shorter than that. So there are instances where we can fit a 100-foot rack, because 25 feet of it goes onto the participating vacant lot next to it, and it's all inside of the same fence area.
what I've got written down from what Leroy's comments and Daryl's is that we need to define a participating parcel and non-participating parcel. Define a parcel with solar array and those without solar arrays. And by what I've got down is all setbacks will be set. And that whether you're participating, everybody, whether you're the good neighbor participant or you're participating with the solar array, you have the setback set and everybody's agreed with that. And everybody abides by that. And then if you're non-participating, then those setbacks are put in place, and those are, you know, for whether, for anybody who's not participating, that's a given. So either way, what we got is pretty close to being clean, but it goes back to putting more definitions in section 2.
Yeah, and define what, you know, participating
Yeah,
and
that's right,
non-participating
that's right,
is.
that's right.
Just a quick question, so the 10 acres we were talking about.
Yep, you haven't come up with a number there.
Yeah, we haven't came up with a number, that's one of the questions. Number two would be is if we do join them together, will somebody had like 5 acres like we were saying before, Daryl, would we allow that to be in that definition?
But I can tell you for.
You see what I'm saying? If we allow them to butt, like, you know, like what we were talking, or even with the buffer, call it, would that go into that, or would it have to be?
Why would it?
Do we allow anything to be built across 10 sections of property at all?
Not that I know of.
Not that I know
Blows
of.
my mind, I mean, we're talking
And
about
setbacks
this.
are for emergency access, among other
This
things.
doesn't exist, like.
It comes back to, it's a lease agreement for a land use. And
But,
it's just like,
but if you want the whole chunk, you go buy it, you don't.
or you rent it.
Say
So,
something.
so I got a question.
Permanent structure.
Yeah, anything permanent.
I'm gonna,
Yeah, listen to Daryl,
so this lease agreement,
right?
Dan's gonna build me a 40-by-60 pole barn on my property that isn't, big enough to hold a 40-by-60, but since, there's a lease involved, all those setbacks are out the
That's what
window.
I'm saying, can I lease land to the next door neighbor and build my pole barn onto his land?
Not that I know of.
I don't think that's what I'm talking about. Not if you're participating.
I would not approve that. Participating setback. We've got that in the definition.
Well, okay, so if you have a participating setback of 50 feet, then there's gonna be a 50 feet buffer between everybody's property. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that if you have the joint so they can do the construction, that's what Daryl was gonna
That's
say.
not a buffer, that's not a setback.
Right.
There's no, you're saying there's no setbacks between parcels, but then on the other hand, you're saying, well, there's a 50-foot setback for participating.
For a lot, you know, the lot.
I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't make sense.
It's, oh my God, you're on a tree.
Oops, sorry.
This doesn't exist.
I don't know what to say.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a
Sorry.
suggestion?
Yes,
So I know we've been going over this for
2 hours.
a few hours now, and I know people's got examples of this and that. So my suggestion would be, everybody knows what's on this page is the meat of the, probably the majority of it. What's gonna define this solar? So I'm gonna ask if the planning commission could move on and the next workshop or our next available meeting, if they're gonna talk about something, they need to have examples of what they wanna change or modify that's in this. Not something that they're coming off the hip with. I think if they wanna change something, they need to have it written down and tell us what they need to change. Just my suggestion, and we can move on.
I think we also should have, everybody's gonna have a different idea of what these setbacks should be.
They should come with a reason why they think they should be at that,
Right,
amount.
I can amount to that. So are we gonna table this until our next
Move
time
the
then?
table till next meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. On to discussion.
Hold on, I think it's almost.
What?
Young lady wanted to say something.
I know she did. We still got new business to deal with and then citizens' time. So, we had is there any more discussion upon this? We need to hold a motion. we have a motion to, table this until the next time we're together, and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed?
No.
Okay. Motion is carried. The only thing that we added to the agenda, I got very much stuff here. We added to the agenda that we would talk about a special meeting and a workshop. Doug and I, means we do what we do, would like to shove that back till June, but, if we get 3 inches of rain tomorrow night, we can do it next week, I wouldn't care. But, let's get serious about coming up with a special meeting aside from, and decide what we're gonna do. Who wants to do something?
Monday's a good day.
Generally,
Well, you're not gonna be able to meet till the 16th then.
Does the third Monday of the month work with your schedule?
Third Monday of the
I
month
do
would be
believe
the
it
19th.
does.
And
That
I'm,
would be the 16th
Of June?
of May.
no, I look at, we start on that in June.
we did say June,
Because
we
we still,
started master plan in June.
I can tell you, we can set this for in 2 weeks. Nobody here is gonna read this because they haven't read all the stuff on the solar, and we're supposed to have the solar done, so we don't know what.
Can we set a workshop up for the solar?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, this is,
Why don't we just do it at the same time? Or
No.
actually, can we?
You're not gonna do that. We can't even get through this.
That was.
You're talking about stray cats, you're talking about a zoo.
Yeah.
Two different
okay.
things.
I was trying to tie the two together a little bit.
No.
So the 16th, is that what somebody said?
of May.
Of May.
That's what Doug said, 16th of May.
You're talking about the second Monday.
That's the third Monday.
Third.
The second Monday is the 9th. That's the
meeting
township
already.
board meeting.
Yeah, that's why,
I'll probably be at that one and that.
I would think you should.
yeah.
We appreciate you going there. We could pray for rain and try
I'm good
try
with
to do something
Monday.
on Monday night, the 16th, for a
So,
special meeting on solar.
so,
Workshop.
does that need to be,
Posted, yes.
how many days do we need to post it?
15.
I don't know.
I think that
No,
would
it's a
have to be
special
published
meeting,
at the front
therefore it
door.
only needs to be posted 18 hours ahead.
18 hours,
That's
you
what I
hang it
thought.
on the door.
And is there any reason we can't do it earlier, like, say, 6:30?
I'm good with that.
I'm good with 2:30.
Well, I'm not good.
I can't get up.
I work
Some of us get up in the morning, Daryl.
Yeah, I know.
So let's try and do that 16th, workshop on solar. Everybody come with their notes.
Monday, 16th.
Monday the 16th at 6:30.
I can't guarantee, but
Anita,
Yes,
are you
sir.
gonna post this?
Heck, yeah.
because May is critical.
May is critical to us, that's right.
For our business, if you want
Well,
open
if
space,
for
if you
some
want
reason
open
it
space,
doesn't
man,
work
you
out,
need
just
farmers to make ground.
Okay.
There
You
is
know what I mean?
nothing planted,
That's
there is
all right.
Gotta have some
nothing
type of takedown.
planted in this township except for a few acres I've got in.
Well, Doug, if it don't work out for you guys, we'll change.
Right. We can do that with an email.
If it doesn't work out for you, Doug, we'll have it done before you get back.
Right, it might go a little smoother.
Don't you worry. If you can't make it, we'll take care of it.
They just don't have their attorney call me for the answers.
All right, that's new business, so now let's go on to citizens' things.
Sharon Worcester, Minor Township, ready for bed.
Yep.
Just a quick thing on the properties, when you were talking like 600 acres, have you ever thought of throwing out a percentage? Like they can only do a percent of 80 acres, or a percent?
I brought that up.
Oh, did ya?
Yeah, he
And it
did.
got shut down?
Tonight.
It's not done yet.
Okay, all right, good, perfect. So that was.
Apparently you were napping while you were here.
Sorry. No, I wasn't. I heard everything. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your work.
Just wanted to say, earlier it was said that June through June is the end of the moratorium. The Board of Trustees passed the month would be,
August.
Yeah, that's what I thought, it was late.
I was thinking it was,
Yeah.
my
Milan's
God.
before you guys.
yeah, Milan passed it in January.
So it'd be June for them, that's where we're.
So
We're
thanks for
July.
the
We're good
clarification.
till August.
Okay, is there anything else?
Well, but the board, if they want to extend it, would have to do it in July.
I got that down for my report next Monday, moratorium date.
Actually, they would be good, because they passed it February 14th, and your board meeting would be August 8th, so you guys could do it in August even.
I'll make sure all those Ts are crossed
Okay,
before August, you can bet on that.
yes, Pam?
Okay, so the Milan driveway site plan has been passed, correct?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a set schedule yet for hours and days that they will be open?
We've got hours that by the guidelines for what was in the permit.
Right.
Now, whether or not they've started or set their calendar, we have not received that.
They could-
Unless, I don't know if the building
I
department's
know
got it or not.
the last video I watched from home of one of the meetings, it started out, you know, we're gonna do this, and then it kinda just slid down to, well, maybe we'll do this, and we can have exceptions, and now we're gonna be open extra days and extra hours.
No, I think we got that all hammered out.
Yeah,
I don't think that they could have done the schedule without talking to us first, because how would they know when to start the schedule?
they did
Yeah,
put a
They said there
schedule
was
up.
gonna be a couple of them going over,
They said,
I remember
it was a
talking
couple,
about
they
it.
weren't, but they didn't give you a full schedule, because they wanted to talk to us. to see.
Okay, so how many days a week will they be open?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, can we let Mike answer that question?
Go ahead, Mike.
I don't know the exact details, but it's all in the business plan, right?
I thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's all covered.
We approved their business plan.
Yeah,
Okay, how many days a week will they be open?
I'd have to look it up for you, wanna call me tomorrow, or,
What's the number?
I'll tell you later. I'm at extension 3 of the township,
Right.
That should be public information, isn't it?
I was thinking,
not my cell phone.
I was thinking it was 5
No, I mean
days.
the hours that they're open and the number of days.
Oh,
The
Yeah, I
hours,
don't, yeah.
Because we're on TV right now, lots of people are listening.
Yeah.
It helps being at home, because I appreciate the information, that's why I asked, even if I know the answers
Yeah.
already, I kinda, put it out there. Alright,
it was Wednesday through Saturday late and some hours on Sunday,
Well, you know, something's been on here, almost not matter,
so.
well, please post it on the township website, that would be great. I know a lot of people are wondering. Should be
Okay.
public info.
They post stuff all the time, I
Yeah.
got some Harley races that they posted,
Yeah, they're doing a lot to try and,
Harley races, I'm sure they'll post their hours on our.
They post that on the Milan driveway site.
right,
No, it's
on
on,
the Facebook page.
it's on London, isn't it?
Probably the residents,
Only? Is that
the
what they
residents
posted?
page,
Probably the
yeah.
one I
Yeah.
shared from the Milan driveway site to the London
Okay,
site.
maybe, yeah, somebody
But
did it.
anyways,
It might have been you did it, I don't know, is it? Okay.
Okay. Anything else, folks?
long time coming to put some stipulations in place as far as the number of days open and that kind of stuff. It's not a lot yet. Okay, thank you.
All right,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. Is there
Are
a
we gonna
second?
do commissioners' comments?
If you would like to,
We have something else
it's
to
10
say.
o'clock.
I would certainly like to thank
Start the
all the
comments.
planning commissioners for their due diligence in the upcoming meetings for the master plan and the, solar array ordinance. So, meetings go a lot smoother when you come prepared with questions and we don't shoot from the hip. That way, we're not gonna drag something out for 2 more years. Please, please. Pretty please with sugar on top.
I think no matter what we
Get it
do,
right.
I mean, shooting from the hip, I mean, anything we come up with is gonna be a random question, it's not like we can't
I
dictate
know.
what we're gonna do.
But they all don't have to be random.
Carol, that's done.
The chair's disposal, the vice chair will entertain a motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Oh, on a side note, the, vice chair of the,
Let me move my hat. Yeah, let me not crush you.
just for thought, I got a text message back from the chair for the state.
You're putting really about farming.